What's happening? Here we are again. I'm Djordje, your friendly neighborhood bullfill cat, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Slapstream with Djordje. I can't believe it lasted this long, but I have I think uh, guests scheduled for another 2 months or so. And thanks a lot for your suggestions. Please write me down, like if you want me to feature somebody, write down in the comments below this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that. That really helping me out a lot. And thanks a lot for all these Patreons that we have. The link for the Patreon website is down below. That really helps supporting the channel and supporting these slap streams. And I put also a couple of donation links under the video, so check out those as well. Today we have like a super special guest, and I'm really excited about him. And before I introduce him, I would like to ask you if you hear me fine, because I had some issues um, with my mics and everything. So I would appreciate a live chat comment. So just so you, if you need it louder or quieter, or if it's fine, that would be the best. All right, I'll wait for that. And today we have Jason Burns, great friend of mine, um, guy that made all my basses here. If you see me play my um, great white bass with Tiger Army or Drake Bell or whoever you might have seen me play, he's the guy behind it, and he's the one that made the pickup for me as well, and the pickups that I had on the bass before, he made those as well. Besides basses, he makes guitars, bass guitars. We're going to be talking a lot about that, but he's definitely the guy that makes some of the coolest instruments around. I would not endorse just any company that offers the endorsement to me. I'm very picky. And I got involved with Jason like maybe 10 years ago or so. That's when he made me the first bass. And since then, I never played anything else in the States. Sometimes, I have to do the fly out dates, and then I have to do play like on someone else's bass, which is usually a nightmare. But whenever I can, I request a blast cult, and so far has been pretty good. All right, thank you, JM, Carolyn, and Fernando. I'm glad that you hear me fine. Jason will join us in a second, so I will appreciate if you tell me if you hear him as well, because he's going to be playing. And without further ado, let me add Jason Byrne.
What's up, Djordje? How
How's it
you
going?
doing, man?
All right,
Can you hear me?
better. I hear you perfectly. I hope
Cool.
our audience hear you as well. So please let me know in the comments. How are you? How have you been?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Just had a little birthday last night.
Happy
Got
birthday.
the birthday hangover happening today, and it's a beautiful day in London. That's good, man.
It's a heat wave here in California.
I
Slapsville is really hot today.
I hate to say it, but I'm glad I'm not there. Really, it's been 70 degrees, sunny. It's like California should be in London for the last 4 months. It's crazy.
So
But
I'm not sure how many people are familiar. So you moved out to London permanently when exactly?
why or when?
When?
When really I started working in the shop here about a year ago because about actually this time, yeah, I was just finishing a stray cat tour of Europe, and I had the shop and we were building it out and everything. And I went on that tour and then I got back and started working. So it's been just about 1 year this week, um, that I started building instruments in the shop. It took 6 months. I was over here in February of last year, just kind of putting it together, getting ready to start building things, and then I did that tour for a month and a half or something.
it's been a process, but that shop look at least as cool as the shop in Orange. So I've
Yeah,
been
I love it here. It's cool, man. It's not quite as large in square footage, but I thought it out a lot better, so it's just more efficient. And
okay. John, I just turned myself up. Do you hear me better, or would you like me to hear myself up a little more as well? Um, okay, I'm
man, I got
turning
this
up.
fancy British mic, and
Okay.
it's
Well,
probably
it says
crushing your little
you're
collar
down.
mic.
So, like, if can you turn down a little bit, or
You want me to turn down?
that's what they say. It says like,
Yeah, okay.
is it distorted
Fancy
or
British
like?
mic's too loud.
So am I good now? Sorry guys for this. Like, it's really hard like to do the levels. So
How about this? Is this a little bit better?
I hear you perfectly. So let's continue until somebody complains. But feel free to tell me up, down, and then we can do whatever we can. So what's going on with the shop in Orange? Lots of people are asking about it.
It's still running. I got Derek O'Brien, master luthier over there, and Jason Brown comes in every once in a while and busts out some double bass stuff. It's going good, and actually, Derek's been working on a lot of double bass stuff lately. He's been, kind of back and forth from the guitars. We had quite a few guitar and electric bass orders, and now he's back onto the double basses. And he's got a nice little batch coming out. So I usually like to go back over there, once every 4 or 5 weeks, but with all this new world stuff, I haven't been able to. But it's in good hands because he's a badass builder that works there full time. So, and it's kind of, we have assistants. Paul comes in every once in a while, Paul, and I have a luthier that comes in here, but basically we're building from start to finish each instrument. So we don't have like a dude doing frets and a guy doing the woodworking and the guy doing the paint. We do everything from scratch ourselves, one piece at a time. Even if we're doing a run of say 4 or 5 double basses, we start it from raw material and including the tuning machines. And, we bit off a lot doing every part on this instrument we do in-house by one person.
Are you building all these instruments kind of the same way in both shops?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to evolve it a little bit more here because I'm, things I wanted to change in my molds and some of the tooling that I use to build the double basses. I knew I could make the second batch better of easier to work with. So there's not much change in my basses because at first I was going to do this violin corner here. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do 145. That'll be the gamba shape in the US. But I chickened out because I just like the gamba shape. And back here, I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. This is the first bass I built in the UK, and it's the 145. And it's just about finished. Really similar shape, but there'll be tiny little differences. I mean, even the profile of the outline of the bass is slightly different, and the F-holes have just a little tweak on them, just so you can tell the difference between the UK and the USA.
Is that the only difference? Pickups and everything else is still the same?
Pickups are the same, but I do a lot of silk screen work on guitars and even my pedals and the pickup system. So I have those silk screens are in the US. So for the channel blaster here, I'm doing this like engraved version instead of the silk screen artwork on the control panel. I'll show you, I got one right here. Yeah, so you can see it's engraved there. So it's slightly different. The electronics are exactly the same though. Same guts in there. But even the way I machine the tailpiece here, just because I have different tools, comes out slightly different. Like the lines on it are just a little different than the US one.
And the wood, like, are you getting? I assume you're getting wood from different places, right?
Yeah, man. It took me a while to source out wood because in the US, I really like especially with the guitars, okay? Because the double bass, you don't really want to change the recipe too much. I respect the aesthetic, the way, the reason and the engineering behind the string instrument and why it's built. I definitely don't want to screw with that. I just want to make improvements to make the build better and maybe more stable without affecting the look or the sound. It has to sound like a double bass. If you're carrying this thing around with you and it sounds like, a P bass, what's the point? I mean, you're doing all that work, physical work, and you're carrying this giant egg around with you that if the goon at the airport handles it wrong, it costs you $1,000 to fix it, So I've always had respect for that. So yeah, the wood on, and definitely it's going to be slightly different because I'm using European wood over here. But for the guitars in the US, I love using indigenous woods to where I'm from, Louisiana and Texas and the South, and even California, and getting, using woods that other people don't use on guitars, because it's definitely more of a, you have a little more room to create different things and expand the sound, not just I use mahogany and maple, or I use swamp ash and maple. It's cool to use Louisiana cypress, and then you get something completely different. You're not just out there doing cover songs of other people's stuff, So I kind of look at it. So hey, to answer your question, I just went around in a huge circle. I just found this guy. Well, first off, I went into the forest here, and I found at this estate, they told me I could take some of these old growth trees that they had to cut down, and I could mill them out. So I got all this beautiful beech, sycamore, oak, and some other thing that, off trees that were a couple hundred years old. Some of it's spalted, and that's why they had to cut it down. It was diseased and had this, has crazy grain through it. So I just milled down like as many logs as I could in one day. And we have now a massive drying stack outside of some really cool wood that I'll be able to use soon. It's about dry. Also found a guy the other day that sells this lumber from these fallen trees in London, and the tree is called the London plane. And they were designed about a few hundred years ago in London to suck the smog out of the city, because it was such an industrial city, and the air was dirty and foggy and all that. So they came up with this tree that loves to just suck down CO2, and they've been around for about 200 years. So all these old growth trees are dying of old age. So this guy chops them down. It's a mix of sycamores, and it kind of looked like a maple tree a little bit without bark. So I just got a nice stash of cured London plane. I'm going to be using that soon.
Yeah, I know that you were always trying to get, like cool wood and experiment with the different wood. So
yeah,
are you happier with the wood that you found in Europe, or the one that you're using in the States?
I like them all. I mean, it's exciting to like make something that you've never heard anyone made an instrument out of this wood, and you strum it for the first time, like, wow, cool. And you hear the little, it's electric guitars, tiny nuances. But I've built a ton of instruments, thousands probably at this point. So I have an idea.
Do you have a clue how many basses you made so far?
It's in the thousands.
Oh, really? As far as
double basses, yeah. From 99 until now, yeah. It's a lot. Like I see some and I'm like, I don't even remember that thing. And it'd be crazy paint job with all these crazy graphics and shit. I'm like,
yeah, you were probably making like more like a crazy graphics and stuff like with the King and then the Blaskold, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it was cool when I started Blaskold, that hot rod. I've always built cars, and actually King started. I was partners with one of my best friends in the world, Jimmy Hollywood at Slapsville. And so we started a company together. It was the Chop Shop, which is Slapsville now, and King Double Bass, all in the same building. So we were building hot rods and double basses as two separate businesses, but sharing all the tools, and we both owned half and half. And after that was right when I first moved to California. After a few years, I loved cars and I've always collected them. And any of my money that I spent, that I made playing music, I would go out and buy a Merc or a 32 Ford. So when I lived in Houston, I just had this giant warehouse that I lived in with all of my cars. It was like, you know, that movie, what is it? That Tom Hanks movie, Big, you know, where you're just like a little 7-year-old with all your toys. So
That's great. And I remember that shop, the King shop. I prefer Blast-Out. You know, with Blast-Out, you created kind of something more progressive, I would say. You know, for me, I was kind of happy that I was involved with Blast-Out and not with King that much. And
yeah, man, I dialed it back a little bit more classic, I think. You know, classic. I wanted to design things that would like hold up over time visually, you know, and pay a little more respect to tradition on the double bass. And expand it a little because there's so many great jazz players and, you know, even rock and blues players that could benefit from what I learned and picked up and evolved at King. So I wanted to just kind of broaden the demographic for the instrument. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So what would you say, like, what kind of players mostly play your instruments? Is it rockabilly or... I mean, I know that all kinds of bass players play, like even classical guys play Blast-Out, but it's probably majority rockabilly, right?
You know, there's a lot of rockabilly, but it's not, because unfortunately, a lot of the rockabilly bands can't, and are younger and can't really afford to kick down for a really expensive handmade bass. I mean, there's a few here and there, but you know, Blast-Out is selling a lot of double basses to guys that play electric bass that want to step it up and play a double bass on stage, you know, and expand their arsenal. And I think what I've done with Blast-Out is make it a lot easier for bass players, electric bass players, to kind of plug and play and not have to go through the battle that the struggle we've had since day one playing double bass from, you know, I was playing it started in kind of the mid 80s, late 80s is when I got the first one. And plugging in was just, you either had to clamp a bunch of P bass pickups into your fingerboard or just feedback the whole time and not be heard. So that's actually why I started building. I always loved building things, motorcycles, cars, blah, blah, blah. But I realized to play this instrument live at realistic stage volumes for rock and roll band, there had to be something built from scratch that worked, because there was nothing on the market that you could plug into an SVT with 810s and not just blow the place out with feedback, or you just turn it all the way down and nobody hears you. And again, then you just lugged all this gear around the world and now no one can hear you. So what's the point? You know, so you know how frustrating that.
Absolutely. We are all very well familiar with that problem.
Yeah.
Do you remember when was the first time you made a bass from scratch?
Yeah, you know what's funny is this bass was one I did at King. This is a fully carved bass and steam formed sides, hand built, and it was wrong. I made it kind of wrong because it was one of the first ones, and I just kind of put it away. Jimmy, my partner, threw it up in the attic of his house in Riverside, which probably reached temperatures of, you know, 500 degrees. I mean, in the middle of the desert in an attic for 10 years. And he pulled it out like a few years ago, and I was like, whoa, man, that thing is cool, really. It's like there's you know, I guess the scale length and the heel thing, all that was a little off, but it stood up. It sat there in the desert in an attic for so many years. There were things, you know, the top had a few cracks in it, and the neck was completely like twisted more. So I spent about a year just kind of steaming it and clamping it and getting the neck straight. And then I took the top off, fixed that. And when I moved over here, I brought it with me and I finished it here and put a bunch of Blast-Out Tone Mongers, Channel Blaster 2, Blast Colt tuners, and put it together because I knew after drying out that long. Plus, I remember buying this wood. It was guaranteed 20 years old and cured when I bought it. And that was probably 99. So this is some very vintage wood that's been in an attic dried out. So I just realized, I just was like, man, when I string this thing, it's gonna sound good. And it does. It sounds so good. I love it. And I'm doing that carved top bass for you. If it sounds half as good as this, you're gonna be stoked, man. But I wouldn't carry this thing around on the road, man. It's like an egg. I mean, it's just, the wood is really thin. It's solid wood. It's not laminated. It's just ready to explode at any second.
Yeah. Well, I know how that goes. And are you, so when did you make that bass?
Maybe 2000, 2001. I don't know. Somewhere around there. I think
when did you start?
I think I moved to California about 99, and I'd started keying as like my off when I'm not touring and playing music, and I was sitting around Houston just being naughty in Houston. I had this other thing that kind of kept me okay. I would build pickups like Jimbo wanted one from Horton Heat, and I was just kind of I was breaking through on the pickup system. I could actually play something up from all the touring and going, going to Radio Shack and wiring up piezo buzzers to like a crappy preamp and just having this blob and I couldn't solder really well. Nobody taught me how to do it. So there's just blobs of solder everywhere and all that. So I was making the pickups in Houston before I moved to California. And then it was kind of like I'm touring less. I'm going to make more of these. I got more orders. Should I go on this tour or should I fill all these orders that I have? And at the time in my head, I was like, I should have a real job, like be a luthier. It's like basically about the same as being a bass player,
Well, now you have a real job.
Yeah, except you got to wake up earlier as a luthier. So, but I still love it. I can't complain. I've for the hard, horrible times and great times that come with this kind of a gig where you own your own business and it's like a passion. Like I wouldn't trade any of the ups or downs. It's been fun. And I wake up every day excited to build instruments. I still love it. Like I love every bit of it, from inlaying things to even just doing a setup and plugging it in for the first time and getting it dialed in for the customer. It's exciting to me still. So I'm just going to keep riding it until until Mad Max days, which look pretty.
You have to. I mean, your basses your instruments make people happy. So
that's what I like.
It made our lives like much easier, like when we're on the road. So
yeah, thank you, man. Well, it's exciting to create for the end user, knowing because I most of the time I talk to the player that's ordering an instrument and I listen to their bands. And I kind of craft it to give them something that pushes that band and where they're going with it, that's the cool part for me when I hit that mark,
Absolutely. It's really cool. And they're great quality instruments. They look cool. They're great on the tour. I use Blast Cult basses in the studio as well. I recorded quite a few records on it and it's excellent. I used just the same bass you made me over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John. John said the volume is better. Finally. Thank you, guys.
Just like all bass players, it takes a while when the show starts for the house guy to get the bass right. He's and all the other shit, and then oh yeah, I forgot to turn the bass up.
Yeah. A question. So I know that you were born in Texas, and then you moved to Louisiana, and then back to Texas, and then to California. Was that?
Yeah. So I was born in right outside of Dallas, Texas, and lived there, a few years when I was a baby. And my parents moved to North Louisiana, which is basically East Texas anyway. This little town called Minden, Louisiana, and I grew up there. Went through school there and learned. I mean, it was really cool musically because there wasn't a lot of progression. People still listen to Elvis and Hank Williams and stuff. And actually Jerry Lee Lewis lived down, 15 minutes down the road, and Dale Hawkins lived in Shreveport, 30 minutes away, and James Burton. So there was all these great musicians that, the formative rock and rollers. I've always loved the Louisiana rockabilly, Louisiana blues. It's always been awesome. But those North Louisiana cats, the Dale Hawkins and those dudes, they were crazy because of that area. Pretty much everybody there is crazy.
Yeah, those guys are crazy. I mean, I played with Dale Hawkins in New Orleans. I remember that experience.
In South Louisiana, so I spent a lot of time there as well. Even when I was young, my dad traveled, and I would go with him down to New Orleans and Lafayette and all that. So I got a taste of that as well. It's completely different than North Louisiana. North Louisiana, we rode dirt bikes and, got in a bad car crashes in the highway and stuff like that, got in fights at the Dairy Queen parking lot. That's how kind of Minden was.
And eat gators, right?
Yeah, we didn't have too many gators. I mean, actually, we had some gators.
I like gators. Louisiana is like my favorite country. I mean, my favorite state to tour at, like, as far as food goes in US.
It kind of is its own country. Like, you almost had it right there. I mean, it's country in America.
I didn't want to,
New Orleans. I mean, it's not like anywhere else. It's a lot of. There's a lot of different influences that made that crazy town, but it's a great place. I love Louisiana. Still do. I go there as much as I can, and I have a lot of family.
Cool vibe. Okay, so then from Louisiana, you moved to Dallas, Texas?
Yeah,
Is that when you hooked up with Jimbo?
What's that?
Is that when you hooked up with Jimbo?
Yeah, man. So I knew, like, from day one, I was always. I got a car when I was like 14. I had a Camaro, and I got like you get your license back in the day in Louisiana when you were 15, and you could go to the liquor store when you're 18. But if you had a job, you could get a permit to drive when you're 14. So I was driving around when I was 14 in a Camaro, and I would just haul ass out of town as soon as I could. Anytime we'd be like, it's Friday. Yeah, Mom, we're going camping, and then I'd hit Dallas and go skateboard or whatever with friends there and party all weekend and come back on Sunday. So I knew I had to get the hell out of Minden. I wanted something crazier and bigger. And Dallas was the closest place. I had a lot of friends there. So 17 years old, I'm like, okay, thanks, Mom. See you guys later. I'm going to head to Dallas. And so I moved there by myself. And I went to the Art Institute there for like a few months. Actually, I went to Louisiana Tech for a minute, then that didn't work out very well. So I went to the Art Institute in Dallas, and I would look through the Dallas Observer and see who was playing music, and I would go to play the blues jams with all these Dallas had a really cool blues scene in the mid 80s. I mean, they always have, actually. So, but I was getting to go to these blues jams and kind of learning how to play upright bass. And I found this band called Reverend Horton Heat, and they were playing every night somewhere different in the paper, and it said Rockabilly. I was like, oh yeah, that's on. I'm definitely going to go see that. So the first time I saw them in the paper, I went and saw them. I think I was the only person there, and they were just kind of Taz had just kind of joined the band. Jimbo had been in the band for a while, and they had this new sound with the double kick drum, and it was punk rock, and it was really good rockabilly on top of it. And it was just so, it blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. So I was at Reverend Horton Heat shows for they played like 6 times a week in Dallas. Just like, man, they're in Lower Greenville, they're in Deep Ellum, they're at Club Clearview, they're here, they're there. So I just hit every show, and it was the best thing ever. They were the hardest working. They just came up with a sound. It was so cool and so unique for the time. Now everybody kind of sounds like them, but back then, man, it was exciting. And then I met Jimbo, and everybody that knows Jimbo knows how nice he is and friendly and approachable, and he'll hang out and drink Jaeger with you after the gig and all that. And he was just, a bit older than me, and we became friends. And then I was playing a little rockabilly band there, and we play together here and there. Jim and Jimbo would come out and see us, and Taz, and Art Institute thing wasn't. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna do this. These classes are dumb. So I went, and I was like, well, I gotta earn money, and so I had some experience with reptiles back in Louisiana. So I was a reptile manager at this pet store. And me and all my bandmates lived in the same apartment. And I had all these reptiles that I was selling out of the apartment back behind I'd be like, yeah, if you want this snake, yeah, this snake's about to die. You need to come by my house later after get off work, and I'll sell you a good snake. And I was selling I had lizards and snakes all over my place, and I was earning money doing that. And then Jimbo was like, "Hey man, you don't need to be doing day jobs and doing all this shit. Like, you can." We just moved into a new place. His girlfriend and him, and it became his wife, and we got a new place. We got an extra bedroom. Quit your day job, move in here until you get a gig, because I know you're going to get a gig soon. There's not many of us right now. He was the only slap player in all of Texas. It was really, there wasn't a rockabilly scene, wasn't anything like that. And he's like, just move in, live here, get a gig. I was like, really? Like, yeah, dude, we'll cook. We're good, man. We sit, play bass all night, drink beer, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And I moved in. And Jimbo had the best record collection ever. Like that's one thing I've always done as a kid. I collected records. My parents had great records, and he had things that I just couldn't get. I didn't never even heard of, and he knew about all this British psychobilly that was going down, in the early '80s, and all of the bands from the Meteors to Guana Bats to Frank Flintstones, and he had all of these albums. The hardest things to get in the US. I mean, you really had to search those things out. He had everything. He knew all the history. And plus, he had all the great, Johnny Burnett and Joe Clay and Gene Vincent and all the good stuff as well. Blues guys. He just had the best record collection. And we would drink beer every night, all night long, playing double bass, 2 double basses together. And he taught me kind of everything, until... And it was cool, because it was only like a couple of months after moving in full time with them. I got a gig with the Road Kings, and I moved to Houston. But those months were so great. It was so much fun hanging with him and living there, and just we partied so hard and played. I woodshed it and really learned how to play upright bass at the time.
That's awesome. And when was that? When did you move in with him? 80s, 90s?
It was early 90s, because I think I started with the Road Kings about 92. So it must have been like 90, 91.
So those guys like in Austin, like Kevin Smith and Mark Rubin, were they already there, or were you did you know about that?
I think I later. I heard High Noon and Killbilly played a lot. They played in Dallas a lot. So I saw Mark with Killbilly. I mean, not Killbilly. Sorry. What was this bluegrass band?
Bad Livers.
Bad Livers. Yeah, Bad Livers. There was another bluegrass band in Dallas called Killbillies.
Mark played with Killbillies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe that was his first band. Then he played in Bad Livers. Moved to Austin. Yes. Right. But I just knew, he was a great player as well. And then I saw Kevin around that time. I met Kevin at a High Noon gig. I went and watched High Noon with some of my band members. Like, hey man, there's a rockabilly band. They were just playing like a pizza place for 15 people. And watching him play, and there was no drummer, I was like, oh shit, man, look at this dude. And he was doing the drag triplets, which was like, what the hell is he doing? What is that? And I would just, you know, like, you could hear it on the album too, that first High Noon record. Like, what the hell is he doing? How is he doing it? Is he faking it? No, he's doing it live. And it was like his secret sauce for so long, you know? And it was me and Jimbo and Kevin. I don't think there was really any other slap players around. There's probably a few more in Austin I didn't know about, but it wasn't a thing for sure.
Yeah.
You know, like,
just later on, they kind of like created a scene and all of that.
Definitely.
So you were at that time you joined Road Kings, right?
Yeah.
And that's with Jesse Dayton. And were you touring a lot or playing mostly locally?
Yeah, we did a lot of local. Like Road Kings had a really good manager who was working. He was one of the head guys at Pace Productions, which is like the big production show that put on all the big stadium shows and rodeo and Van Halen and all that stuff around the South. And he was our manager, so he had everything. Like when I moved there, it was legit professional. They moved me there and got me a place, and they had us, you know, we had meetings every week, they had a schedule. It was like, I knew what I was going to make. It was like, wow, this is cool. I can make a living doing this. And the band was starting to kind of, especially locally around Texas, we were doing pretty well and kind of branching out. Horton Heat was like, those guys, I can't even describe how hard those dudes worked and drove around the country constantly in a van every day, every year, for years and years and years. Like, where people in Kansas or people in Chicago, people in Ohio thought they were local because they would come through every town all the time, no matter what. And I mean, they must be the hardest working band, Guinness Book of World Records, if the amount of real shows played, you know, by someone other than like some Vegas lounge act that does 12 sets a day. You know, those dudes still just play. We wanted to have I think definitely with the manager we had, wanted to have the security of knowing, okay, we have these local gigs that pay a lot. We're going to branch out and hit these new markets and states comfortably, and then come back and do a couple weekends out. So we got like on more of a financially smart tour, maybe. I think by then, though, Horton Heat just worked so hard, they were doing pretty good. But yeah, we definitely were, you know, still playing 4 to 5 nights a week, 4 nights most of the time, 5 nights sometimes, and making a good living, you know. And it was that road up where everything, like every month you're making more money, more things are happening. We were getting on TV shows, writing music for, you know, we did something for Melrose Place or 90210 or something. And I had a little acting part in this movie, and things were happening. That's all. And even with Horton Heat, living with Jimbo, watching the rise, it's the best part of any musician's career. It's just the most exciting time. Once you peak out and everything and you're bored of playing your own music, you know, then it's not near as fun. But these were just fun times. And same with the Road Kings. It's just like every month things were happening. We're making more money. And I was so young. I think I was like 18 or 19 when I moved to Houston. I couldn't even legally drink in a bar in Texas. I was so young, I didn't know what was going on. I mean, even my first gig with Road Kings, we played with the Stray Cats. We opened for the Stray Cats. We had a few dates. That was my first gig with the Road Kings.
That was your first gig? It was with the Stray Cats?
Yeah. Choo Choo Hot Fish tour. Yeah.
You know, I love that album. People like don't dig it that much, but I love Choo Choo Hot Fish.
Oh, that's cool. It had great stuff. They did a killer version of Sleepwalk on it, right? And
yeah.
They were doing.
I even like Elvis and Velvet, you know.
Yeah, I did too. And they were doing a lot of the, the production tricks and things and trying to make it modern and fit in the early 90s and using, you know, trigger loops. Elvis on Velvet. They'd hit a pedal and it would sing the backups, and it had, you know, samples.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, I can watch a really traditional rockabilly band for a little and appreciate it, but I've always thought and liked somebody that moves that forward, even though you're still stuck in that genre. Always with the Road Kings, we were never trying to just do Johnny Burnett songs and stuff. We're trying to write pop songs that could kind of cross over, and add a little bit of.
He's great for that. He's a great player, and then he's very versatile in many different music styles. So it made sense.
Yeah, he's a talented musician for sure. His guitar playing is crazy. He's a great singer, writes good songs, So we had that, and could do a solid 3-piece because that front guy has to be a motherfucker, or a 3-piece, or it's just like whatever. We've seen this before, And he had skills. He brought the skills, man. He was on. I'm just a big player. I was just along for the forestry ride.
You mentioned that you were acting. So where were you acting?
I wasn't acting, I promise. I just happened on these little parts, and this was.
But there were quite a few of those. Like I remember you were telling me like a few movies or something.
Yeah, I did. They just want. I did a couple commercials that, and they would call me from just seeing me play or whatever. I'd get, hey, you want to be in a commercial? Here's my card. Call me. We have an audition. And I'd do that, and I would get it, and I'm like, wow, that's good money. And I just had to do one day of work and not like the commercial. I just walked up like, hey, what's up? Where's Linda? Or something like that. And I made a few grand, and then every month I was getting residual checks for a commercial. It's crazy. And then from there, that producer worked on this film and got me a little part. And I mean, nothing was ever big, or, you can see me in a few stupid little things, but definitely didn't want to be an actor. It was just kind of bonus money at the end of the day,
So where can people see you? Like, what are those commercials, so I can Google it after this.
There was an insurance, the one I was like, damn, nice check. It was like it was an insurance company. It's sort of I don't even know, and I haven't seen it in years, but it was the company was not international, it was something insurance, and they did it in Dallas, and then I did this. You can also see the Road Kings did a little thing. We did Pam Tillis's music video, which wound up being country music video of the year, and she wanted us to be her band, and they filmed it in Houston for the song, and it wound up this song in the video went huge. It's called it's Pam Tillis Spilled Perfume. So that was probably when I was 18 or 19. And that might have been the kickoff where that guy can come in, he'll play. It was a day of hanging out with producers and just, being musicians on a movie set, which is obnoxious. And then they were like, hey, well, we could use you as extra here. We could do this. And I did 3 or 4 stupid little things. Even a film where I had a little part that was kind of it was about a rockabilly band, and Drew Barrymore was the lead in it. And it never saw the light of day. It just never came out. It was called The Dust Devils.
Huh. I didn't know about it.
I still have a video cassette of some of the edits of it somewhere in a box.
Well, you have to show me that.
Oh, yeah.
So, were you in a True Blood as well?
What's that?
Were you in the True Blood as well?
Yeah. We did. We played the Louisiana band in True Blood, and we did CC did all the basically worked with the music supervisor. And we had the title song for the theme song for True Blood until they heard that was the one that actually hit. It's a great song. They whooped their ass on that one. We made a song called Bleed to Feed that's on the True Blood soundtrack, but we did most of the music for True Blood on the first 3 seasons and the soundtrack.
And I remember when I was watching the series, it was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It lasted a long time, but we did and nominated for a Grammy for that, for the songs, and got beat out by the Ray Charles movie came out that year. We got our asses whooped on this best soundtrack Grammy by the Ray Charles album. Yeah.
That's a really cool, really cool soundtrack. And so we were talking about, we're still talking about your performance career. So you were playing with Jesse and the Road Kings, and then you started playing with CC Adcock.
Yeah. Jesse kind of broke the Road Kings up with his country solo career because I was always pushing like that Horton Heat route. Like, let's get more punk rock, not to sound like Reverend Horton Heat, but to do our thing, but less country and more rock and roll. I mean, I love good old Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and all that, but you'll probably see Slim Harpo on my turntable a lot more than you'll see Hank, even, you know, and or Lazy Lester or somebody. That country, that ain't my vibe. And that was Jesse was like down with doing some country and some new outlaw, new whatever country. And I was like, always just, we were getting like sound check stage fights on the microphone. Like, dude, I'm not playing that stupid redneck dumb shit. Like, play faster, you know? And he's like, God, you're an idiot, man. Like, we got to write songs that people can, you know, it's about the song. And then it wound up just being like, yeah, he got the guys from, Tom Lewis and from the Mavericks or whatever, and started his solo band. And I was just like, damn, I'm just in Houston. What am I going to do? And I was actually doing that commercial I was telling you about in Dallas, and Tarka Cordell, who produced CeCe's album on Island Records, and his dad's Denny Cordell, who discovered Tom Petty, Bob Marley, and all these people, and was the head of A&R at Island at the time, had signed CeCe, and they'd done the first album. They were looking for a double bass player. They'd used Billy Bacon on a few tracks. Rest in peace, Billy. He was a cool dude. You know Billy, huh? From the Forbidden Pigs.
I'm not familiar with his name.
So he was the singer, double bass slap player for the Forbidden Pigs, which was probably one of the only slap players at the time back in the early 90s, like Jimbo, Kevin, Mark, Billy. So Billy had played a couple of tracks on the album. So they were looking for somebody that could tour and do this because it was a major label release and a lot of money behind it. And Tarka produced it from London, British guy. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, so we heard you play like slap, like rockabilly style." I'm like, "Yeah, dude." It's like, so we'd like to audition you, and we're gonna be doing a gig in Houston, and come out and listen. And if you want to play, we'll do a rehearsal with you. I'm like, "Yeah, perfect." So I made it back after that commercial, went down to Houston, back to home to Houston. And I went and saw him, and I remember like they just had kind of old Louisiana Legend guys playing with him, sitting in, doing local shows for his record release. And Doyle Bramhall was there with him, who's like a Texas legend. And I was like, oh shit, man, Doyle Bramhall's there. Cool. Doyle wrote Life by the Drop, House Rockin', Cold Shot, all the Stevie Ray Vaughan hits. And if you hear Doyle's a drummer, and if you hear him sing, you're like, wow, that sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan, but it's actually the opposite. Stevie learned a lot of, they wrote songs together, and they sounded a lot alike vocally. And I was always a big fan of his, especially like coming up in the blues jams and in Dallas. Like he's like the god of that. He, in the 60s, he played with a lot of the blues legends, the real deal Texas blues guys, but he also like took the British version of how they were into the Texas stuff. And that was big in Texas he had a band called the Chessmen, amazing, like Texas soul band, and played with Jimmy Vaughn. And, that came up with those guys, Stevie and Jimmy. And he was at the gig. I'm just like, whoa, just starstruck by him. And his stepson, Chris Hunter, was playing drums for CeCe, and he was going to be the drummer for him. So Doyle was there, And Chris, he's a motherfucker on drums. I mean, he grew up with Doyle, and that dude could shuffle like anybody and do it anyway. And he was also in Dallas during that time. So I'd seen him at blues jams, and he played with Cold Blue Steel, which is a Dallas band. And like, wow, this is a cool setup. And CeCe's album was really good. I mean, it still holds up today. If you get CeCe Adcock House Rockin', it's killer album. I mean, everything he does is pretty timeless. So that's why it takes him like 30 years to do an album. But it was mixed really well. Tarka produced it, and Tarka was there, and he was just like, yes, I'm going to be in the South with you guys, doing, Southern blues things and touring. Like, yeah. And wound up just being, all these guys. It was a cool mix of places that we came from. I came from the whole like psychobilly, rockabilly, punk rock. Then there was Chris, who was just straight up redneck Texas blues, and CeCe, who was, well versed in Excello and playing slim harpo. And CeCe was Bo Diddley's guitar player and Buckwheat Zydeco's guitar player, and toured with those guys while he was 17, 18, 19. So this was his first solo band. So it was really a bunch of cool, different genres coming together to make this weird thing. And we still play now. I mean, we still play gigs and do tours and stuff.
CeCe is great. And I really like the style of slap bass that you kind of developed playing Zydeco stuff. Have you heard anyone doing that or on the upright bass with slap, or that was kind of your thing?
No, that was the exciting part of it. It was like, I couldn't go into that band and just go ding 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 or ding ding. It had the Zydeco thing. He was pulling heavily because he'd just been touring for years with Buckwheat Zydeco. So he was pulling from the 90s, 80s, and 90s Zydeco beat, which was really funky. And all those dudes played like 5-string basses and really busy. Some of them like that kind of a thing. Some of them played there was a lot of bass and a lot of drums, but it was this real trancey groove. I mean, the Zydeco grooves are just for dancing. I mean, straight up for Zydeco dances in the middle of the country, and the whole shack is fucking bouncing. It's that. It's just about a groove, and it's real trancey. Those eras. And so he wanted
lots of Zydeco that I love. But do you mind like demonstrating a little bit, like playing some Zydeco upright slap?
Yeah.
I would like to learn as well. So just play something.
So this is actually a song that came out on the album House Rocker with I think Classy Blue played electric bass on it. So this was the first time CeCe and I sat down to go, how do we translate this into a slap pattern? And it was exciting because that's everything I wanted to do up until then, was not just go, or that thing. I mean, I love it. And it's cool when you're doing another line and you do some pop line and all of a sudden you bust out the rockabilly walk. That's cool as hell. But I wanted to move this instrument forward. And that was like it was the perfect thing. So the electric bass line went a little something like this. It was kind of the Hot Tamale Baby, like, so it was going like, okay, that's how the hell am I going to put that into a slap pattern? And I remember CeCe and I we had his really cool little apartment warehouse loft thing in downtown Lafayette. And we sat up all night, just, drinking beers and whiskey and going, okay, like, so the first part is going to be like, so I'll just show you what the bass line really quick. The slap part is like, which took the place of, and it's a song called Kissin' Cousins. And it's about, you can imagine what it's about by the title. And it's super Louisiana and just a white boy ripoff of a great Zydeco riff. So we wanted to punk it up a little bit. And, you know, we played it super fast live, and it was kind of our, you know, one of the last songs we played at the night. So that's how it came about. And then I based a lot of bass lines after that off of those kind of patterns. A little more funky. When you play them by yourself on double bass, it doesn't quite make sense. But when you hear it with the band, it's like, then it does that trancey groove thing, which is what the whole band became over the years. Just this 2 drummers and a double bass. 2 drummers facing each other, double bass in the middle, and just creating like this repetitive loop of a groove while he does his thing over the top. I can't hear you.
There's something hypnotic about that particular groove. I would like to learn it. Do you mind showing that to me? All right,
Yeah,
so guys,
sure.
grab your basses if you want to learn.
So the song is an E. It's an E, and if you listen to the first part of the song, it's got this other weird part that goes into it, and it's like this other Zydeco groove, and then we go into the song. So it's like it goes like. And that, by the way, I didn't show you that. Like, that's where I learned to do. I was trying to figure out Kevin Smith's like thing for hours and hours. Like, what the hell? Like, it's really hard to see that he's doing that. And so I just started doing triplet things with my pinky, ring finger, and middle finger, so I could do, you know, it's a little more articulated, but it takes a little more time to set up for it. So you got to, and you can't waste that in the middle of the song where everything's going. You have to do it when they can hear what you're doing, and it's impressive. Otherwise, it's just muddy. But so we started the song like. And then it goes. And there's a little pull off that just comes naturally. And so it's hard to teach this, but it's simple. It's just E to B with the pull off to A, G, E. And then a E, D, E, E, G.
All right, so it's in E minor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you start with that gallop in slap, right? You start with this.
Yeah. No, that's like Black Snake Bite, which is kind of variation of it. But it goes. It's just think E to B really quick, like a country song, like. So it's. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So in the second bar, you basically kind of playing rumba groove, but you are playing, I guess.
It's switched to beat switch.
Right? Instead of you play, you reverse it.
Yeah, it's reversed.
Right? Okay.
That's it. It's close. Then because it's not like it sounds really weird when I just play it like by myself. Because if you play the Piz line, it's just like there's all those pull-offs that now you're replacing for a slap, and that's what we were kind of just like there with the calculator going. Okay, so we go just like. And okay, so I can't really do all those pull-offs, but I can use a slap and kind of insinuate the pull-off. And then somehow the A still comes through on the pull-off. It's like. because I'm just letting it happen. And over time, you just realize, okay, that A is cool, but it also, there's a slap at the same time. So you hear the slap and the A. And then, and we play it about like this tempo, like. See how it sounds really nice when you go to the 4 and not do that pattern, just go full country style.
Sure.
You know, and then
let me try it one more time, the groove, and then you'll tell me which part I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay, so I think you're concentrating on that pull off a little bit. You don't, I wouldn't even start with messing with the pull off. It's the first 2 notes have to be like, and you have to hit that G quick, you know?
Oh, just faster.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right.
It's like I say, when you hear it by itself, it's a little strange, and you reverse beats and things. But with that song, it's like, yeah, that's the groove. And then we got Chris in there going, just like faking Keith Frank beat, which is the best '90s Zydeco dude ever, and had this great Zydeco groove. Every song was like, and it's just like this thing, and you just get it. You play it so long with the drummer by yourself that you just turn it into a loop, and it's just this repetitive drone, you know.
It's a cool thing. Well, thanks for teaching me. Do you have any other cool Zydeco grooves?
Yeah, man. So that basically those same notes, those E minor notes, close to the same pattern. We did a song on the second album called Black Snake Bite, and it's that groove, but it's a little more Caribbean Haitian beat, and it's definitely not as fast. It's not so like, it's more like, you know, laid back. I don't know, but it's the same. It's easy to get these 2 lines confused, so it might be weird for you to learn both of them because you'll mix them together. But the first of the song has this intro, and then you can kind of hear I do these bass hits at the first, which kind of say about what the bass is going to do the rest of the time. So it goes like, so it starts, it's an E song, but we kick it on the 4 like. So it's those same notes, man. E and B and G and E. It's just a different slap pattern, and it's definitely more of a laid back kind of a.
The notes are not an issue. It's kind of cool. I hear that reverse rumba groove. You know, just instead of 3-3-2, I hear like 2-3-3 that you've been doing, and it's a little hard to count if you're not into Zydeco. But let me try. So the beginning is. Right?
Yeah, that's it, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you nailed it.
And after that, anything happens or not?
Yeah, so there was always writing these lines and stuff. There's always parts because you're so busy at certain parts. And there's a part where you're like, oh shit, what do I do here? I can't hit a note. I don't have really time to hit a note. So I have to force like a double slap in there as well. So that's what that has. So if you go through the pattern, it's like, and then there was like, well, now what do I do to bring it back in? So I go, like that. So it's
3 times.
So it really starts with, the whole thing starts with a double slap before you even make a note. It's like, and it's hard to put it there.
Okay, I think I got it. Listen.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it.
Okay,
it's really
cool.
it's that weird double slap that has to happen first, and finding out how not to make it sticky there. It's got a groove, you know.
It's a cool groove. I love both of these grooves. That's awesome.
I mean, all those dudes were funky as hell, and that's something that the double bass never really got before it was retired in the 50s. With people, there's so much pop music that's happened since then that this thing is like it's like uncharted territory, and you don't have to be a genius to come up with something. You know, I'm definitely not a musician that knows anything about actual music. I just know I like to play grooves. I love bass, but it gives somebody like me like this uncharted territory where I can come up with my own thing that nobody's ever done before. Really hard to do that on electric bass in 2020. You know what I mean? So I had all these funky influences going like no one's ever done. I mean, even this most simple funk line was like, you know, you could just like, it doesn't have to go, you know, even if you do that, you can go. Just swing it out a little bit and fuck it up a little bit, you know?
Of course. I mean, it's great. Like I knew that, you know, when I invited you to be a guest that you at the show, that I wanted to feature you primarily as a luthier, but I wanted to present your performance career as well, and then like show these Louisiana Zydeco licks, because I remember first time you played them for me, I was like, well, this is unique. I want to like tell people what you're doing, because I don't think that many people are aware of these lines that you played on CC's records. So it's great. And
Thanks.
just like to say that again. So the first song was "Kissing Cousins," and it's on the first album.
Black Snake Bite, and so
the second album, right?
What's that?
That's from the second album.
Yeah,
okay.
Black Snake Bite, second album. Kissing Cousins, first album.
All right, cool. All right, so one thing that I always ask my guests, and you mentioned that a couple times, so I want to ask you as well. Oh, no, don't take the bass.
All right.
It's with the bass. I wanted to ask you about terminology and nomenclature. Like what are you mentioned a few times, like double slap, triple slap, this or that. So what are the patterns that you are using, and how do you call them?
Man, I've never even
think about it. So what is a single slap for you?
Zydeco. Play that Zydeco thing, but add this beat, and he'll do it on guitar. I'm like, I'll stumble through it a few million times, and wear everyone down, and then I'll finally get it.
So you don't use the terminology like single slap, double slap, triple slap.
Yeah, I think like single slap would be just like, double slap could be, or triplets. It would be, for me, it'd be.
Okay.
And then the quadruplet would be, which is really hard to use, but it's that.
All right.
You get 4 slaps, but then you have to figure out how to work that in a song where people aren't annoyed by the muddy. It's got to be by itself. We've messed around with that one before, I think.
I think that you played did you play the triplet, like when you did you play this, right?
No, there's an extra slap in there, so it's like, let's see if I can get it.
You haven't played this. You play this.
It's not that. So there's an extra one. So it's like I can't even do it slow because it doesn't. I don't think it works slow. But it's like a da 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 da. Yeah.
Huh? You play it.
I can do it better with my hand.
So you're doing a triplet with your right hand. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
I thought, because usually when I play triplets with two hands, it's usually like this. Yeah. Or if it's a quadruple, then it's stuff like that.
That sounds like a
cool. All right, I'll learn something new.
That's awesome.
All right, so Jason is not using single slap, double slap terminology at all. All right, so
I did a few lessons on that, on a lot of things.
I actually started like doing like filming some slap-based lessons that I wanted to do that for a long time. I'm not sure in what form I'm going to release it. Probably some kind of online thing since DVDs are dead now. So I've been working on that last couple of weeks a lot, and I hopefully should be done in.
Cool. It's funny how this whole end of the world thing has made everyone do these things that they've been working on for years. I mean, you've been really trying to do this perfect, super, from the grassroots to the most advanced of slap-based techniques, lessons, and textbooks since I've known you. And even with this right now on the Slapstream thing, it's like it's kicked everybody's ass into gear. Like, oh shit, I better start a TV show and write this book. And like, I do the same thing, man. It's cool though.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I have to stay creative somehow. You know, I'm used to being on the road. Like, you know, I used to be on the road like 8 or 10 months out of the year, then cut down to, I don't know, 5 or 6, and now it's nothing. So it's just, I have to have some kind of, you know, kind of creative outlet.
I was thinking like Reverend Horton Heat, this dude, since I lived with Jumbo, having not had this much time off ever. And Jim must just be like climbing the walls. They're still busy as hell online.
Yeah. They adjusted.
Hardworking band online, but they must be going nuts, man.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, it's just like you're used to, like, you spend your whole life on the road, you kind of adjust everything, and now this happened, and then it's wow. I mean, it's hard for me. I can't imagine how hard it is for them. So hopefully it's not going to last for too long.
I know, man. But you know, people are writing now. They're reinventing what they're doing. It's creative times as well, I think, and like
it is. It's weird. It is.
Trying to figure out how to adapt to all this craziness.
I mean, I would never start the Slapstream, you know, if there wasn't this. You know, I didn't even. I kind of had a little idea about it, but it was just like I knew I would never do it if it was not like this situation. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've been watching. It's cool, man. You get people I've never heard of that I probably should have heard of, and then all the dudes, you know, Kevin and Scott and all this. You got to get Frenchy, man.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, the thing is that, you know, I really want to feature and show people that slap could be used in any genre. So, you know, it's still mind-boggling for me, like how people can get stuck to one single genre, you know, their whole life, and then even that being rockabilly or psychobilly or anything cool, anything that I like. But I don't know. Life is too short. I don't want to spend like my whole life just listening one style of music and
Yeah.
doing all of that. And then I think that for anybody who wants to develop their own slap based technique, it's essential to hear different styles. It's very, I mean, and then when you kind of use all these tricks that you learn in different genres, then you can develop your own voice, because
Yeah.
without influences you can't find anything.
Like I said, this is uncharted territory. Any smart bass player should grab a double bass and move their band forward and the instrument forward. I mean, Miles does it. He's a freak out on the double bass. But the slap part of it, I played with Hank Williams III for a few years, and we did a set of just, he sounds just like his granddad. It was, that stuff. And then we would do a set of speed metal. And when I was in the band, it was like death metal, speed metal, kind of mixed with a little bit of psychobilly. And I wanted to not play electric bass on that set. I wanted to transfer those patterns. And man, speed metal fits slap bass perfect. If the drummer and the bass player can work together and not just double kick each other out of the scene, and I don't think I ever quite nailed it, but there was a few songs with Hank. It was like, see, this instrument is way better to play that metal on than an electric bass. And no one still has done a straight up speed metal band with double bass. It would be the perfect instrument leading the brutality.
You should start it. Now you're in London, find some metalheads over there.
Yeah, man. I'll burn it.
All right, so we have a question, and you can leave your upright bass now, so you can rest. We have a question from James Doken. He said, Jason, do you have the Gateway bass with you?
I don't have one. We did that little run on Instagram, a video, and we sold the ones we had, and we're doing a new batch in the U.S. But I don't have one here. Those are cool though. I love some gateways. That's like I call it the gateway because it's for electric players to get like, hey, come over here. The first one's free. You like upright bass, but you don't really want to go to all the trouble of buying one of those expensive things and learning how to replay a new instrument. You could get the sound just by playing this electric bass. And so it's like, it's the gateway drug and the double bass.
It's a cool instrument. I'm bummed you don't have it with you, but it's great. What kind of pickups is on it?
It's basically a Channel Blaster 2, and I designed the bridge like a double bass bridge. So there's a double bass bridge. Let me just show you really quick. So some people might not know this, but here's one. Let's see. Sorry, hold on 1 second. So there's a reason that these are cut like this. This is just a standard European quarter sawn, but the reason they have this in here and these is because your strings line up. One is right here over this hole. Second one is over this hole. Second one is over this hole. This is so your string volume remains the same, and it actually pushes through these legs into your top, your bass bar, sound post, all connected, but there's a reason they're not just some slab of wood wedged out. This is all it's a beautiful shape, but there's function to this form. So with the Gateway bridge, I designed it a lot like this so that the bridge would move similar to a double bass. Because if it was solid, these two strings would be quiet and these would be louder. So I just kind of made a scaled down version that fits inside of the body, and it works in the same way. Two pickups similar to the ones that are on the Paiza Channel Blaster 2, pushing against the feet that are pushing against the body. And you can adjust the pressure just like on our channel blaster where you adjust the pressure on the piezo on your bridge here. So it works like that, and it actually has the same preamp system as the double bass pickup. So it's got the low end boost, the mid-range control, and then instead of slap, it has a treble control and a master volume. So they come standard with a kind of a set of faux mongers scaled down. So they're double bass strings with a synthetic gut D and G and a low tension E and A. They're really exactly like tone mongers, but they're just scaled down to a 32-inch scale. So you can slap on it. That sounds legit, like you're playing a double bass. And the coolest thing I like about it is I've never been able to play a double bass with a pick, which I always thought would be cool. It's almost impossible. I've seen people do it pretty good, but never really, like, if you want to play something fast with gut strings. It's a cool sound because it still has the same feel as of an electric, and you can anchor on the bridge and play it with a pick. But that's for an upright bass player playing that instrument. You know, that kind of gives me the inspiration on that instrument, was playing it with a pick.
Yeah, that's a cool instrument for sure. So what else are you making these days besides getaway basses and upright basses?
These are a new thing that I've only done over here in the UK. It's a hollow body Flying V electric bass. It looks huge. It's a big instrument. It's only a 32-inch scale. That's really cool. I love these things. They have their own sound as well. I mean, this doesn't really sound like, I can't compare it to another electric bass. It's maybe a old Framus hollow body bass or something. With a straight up, I've been doing a lot of pickups, guitar pickups, winding pickups and stuff for our custom built instruments. So this is a vintage Telly style bass pickup. One of the first real production bass pickups, but they're just so beefy, and with the single pickup, volume and tone, I mean, you can make this thing it's just strong, man. You can just play strong rock and roll, blues, jazz, whatever. It's versatile, even though it kind of has one sound, but it's that warm vintage, but you hear the body of it because it's hollow. That one's actually hogged out mahogany with a maple top. Kind of a basic wood selection, but it sounds great. I got
how many? You got can you plug the V in so we can hear what it sounds like?
Yeah, if you don't mind my bad electric bass playing skills, I'll do it. Hang on. Let's see. And I got the jack hidden right here, so you can just go. So the whole top is clean, no knobs. You got your volume and tone here.
It's such a cool looking instrument.
Roll a little of the treble off, and I'll give you a little more volume. The bass is a bit more active than this. Yeah, sorry, I don't have more skills to demo this any better. But it's a fun. I think the 32 scale always these higher notes. It makes it really nice and warm. It's kind of the sweet spot of the instrument, the higher part of the neck. But obviously, with the shorter scale, the strings move further, so it sounds lower than a P bass. You know, so even your E just deep and dark. It's more resonant, less sustained, but deeper. You know, and I've always dug the 32 scale. Most of my electric basses are 32 scale.
And are you making them in custom colors as well? Or like people can order it, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because you just got someone that said that she needs one in green.
Oh yeah, I just got some killer Nicky Curran Martian Vomit green flake. Like I did, you know, Nick Curran's guitar in. I just found some of that over here. And also I've got two right here. These are like this one. I'll bring it up there so you can see. This one's like super deluxe, bound everywhere. And you can see the F holes are bound in perloid, sides bound in perloid, and the headstock, no binding on the neck. I like a clean wooden neck with no plastic on it. So this is the normal F hole. It's just bound, and then I'm doing some like this as well. These are two that I've just started building. This one has the old lightning bolt F holes, maple with mahogany on the back. I just spread grain filler on it, and then this is kind of the standard F hole unbound maple top. But these are both. I think this one's going like pink flake, and you know, I don't know, maybe like a cool orange or red stain on this one. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, these are cool. James is saying Pope Paul has a badass one.
Does he?
Did you make one for him?
I know Paul's he's at the shop making a guitar version of that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. With the
he has a guitar. Oh, okay, got it. Not a bass guitar. Okay, got it. So what else are you making? Like, so I see a guitar over there as well.
Yeah, I got a Batavia here. I mean, I got a ton of guitars. I've been doing most of the guitars here because just doing all the tooling and building up to be able to make a double bass has taken a bit of time. This is a Batavia with our 1580 pickups. It's got the gold with the ivory, and these are my inlays. I call them Tribeca. You know, kind of a nod to the thumbnail. Gold back. These sound really sweet, man. This is kind of a good old traditional blues rockabilly scene. These pickups sound a lot, kind of in between a Filtertron and a PAF. They're my favorite ones now, and we're starting to wind our own Filtertrons as well. We're going to launch those in probably a month or so.
How many guitars are you making? How many models of guitars do you have?
I have way too many instruments. I tell you that much. I mean, I just mainly because I get, you know, I have an idea and then I drop everything and then start a new model and then do, you know. But I think I have in guitars, I probably have 7 completely different models and a few spin-offs of those as well. The one I've really been building here that I changed up a bit, it's the UKDC, which is a lot like the Nick Curran, the NCDC, but I went back to my old shape, and this is the original. The first guitar I ever built was this shape, hollow body, just like this. So at Blast Cult, I made one like this for Nick, and then I did a new shape, which we still make in the Orange factory, which is it's still a double cutaway, but it's slightly different. So I'm like, man, I miss the old one. I'm going to do that here. And so I made all the molds and tooling to do this. So it's a lot like a SG had a baby with a 6120, you know, that was my idea. Asymmetrical cutaways, just make it look a little bit harder and tougher than a normal hollow body. And, you know, Gibson did the Trini Lopez and Bernie Kessel guitars that I always liked. Nick loved them too, but they were really kind of straight, you know, symmetrical. And I always thought that SG asymmetry was so cool and should be mixed with the hollow body. So that was the whole inspiration for me to even build my first guitar. So we're doing a lot of these here. See what else I got laying around. Like I'm prepping right now to do pretty big run of double basses. I've got
you got like lots of orders or
a few, but it's just time. It's time to like kick some of those out here. So
to the shop, to sellers.
Yeah. We actually have a double bass shop down the street that's carrying our stuff now, called Bridge.
Nice.
Nights are it's a beautiful store. It's been there forever. You know, violin shop, and it's on this main little kind of high street called Church Street, and it's, you know, the whole window is double basses all the way across the window.
Cool.
It's right by.
I remember you showed me some photos of it. And so when people want to buy your instruments, what's the best way?
You can go to our site, get in touch with us by email, and I'll give you a call personally and do a you know, kind of a consultation and find out what you need, what I think you know fit your playing. And then I work with the player throughout the build and try to make them their lifetime, you know, instrument that they're going to love and keep forever, and it's going to be their voice. You know, that's the goal for the whole
and
build.
What's the email? What's the best email to get in touch with you?
It's studio@blastcult.uk, right? .co.uk.
blastcultuk.com.
Okay, we have like 20. I don't know. Blastcult.uk.com.
All right, Diana, please write it down in the comments, and then I'll feature it here.
Yeah.
It is studio@blastcultuk.com.
I mean, if you go to our website or our Instagram and ask a question, you're going to get responded to quick. And if you want something, I'll give you a call and we'll talk and we'll create your dream instrument.
All right, that's cool. And so let's get back to double basses. So as far as double basses, how many different models have you made so far?
Well, with Blast Cult, only one. And
145?
Yeah, the 145. But you know,
do you have the one with violin shape, with violin corners?
The violin corners, that's the old one from the attic in Riverside.
Ah, okay. So you're not going to be making any of those anymore.
You know, I think I will probably do some violin shape ones, but and as I was building all my molds over here for the ribs and everything, I chickened out at the last second because I drafted this shape because I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Europe now. It's fancy. I'm going to make it like. But then I chickened out at the last minute. I'm like, man, I've always made, that's my kind of standard shape. I'm going to stick to it. So I went ahead and went gamba shape. But there's so many cool features on this bass. First off, the neck is removable. It's not a travel bass. I'm not trying to sell it as that. It's just removable. You can take it off and fly it without the neck on, or you can leave the thing on forever. It's a way that, because I'm making the necks identical, the heels and the neck block. So say something happens down the road, or you drop it, or your trailer gets crashed and your gear gets thrown all over the highway, Djordje, and the body winds up being all right, but you need a neck. I can just send you a neck and you can put it on. and it's not that huge of a deal. Also, check this out, man. You haven't seen this. I'm going to show you this this fingerboard. So I've come up with a new fingerboard design. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel again. It's just our standard fingerboard. This one's in ebony, but instead of doing a short little scoop, I've done 2 scoops that go all the way up to that sounds like a cereal commercial, 2 scoops. They go up almost all the way to the overstand of the neck. The neck ends, say, about right here. And I've carved out a groove in the center and inlaid a piece of carbon fiber bar, which is super lightweight and stable. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to keep your fingerboard stable and straight the way it was shaped from day one. Even if you're traveling through Arizona right now with a bass bag pushing down on this on its back, you know, with the overstand right there, it's always wanting to kind of rainbow down. This solves the problem and it makes it also a lot lighter. And the slap sound on these is killer, man. It's like super resonant. This ebony actually sounds like an old rosewood fingerboard just because it's so scooped out here. Makes the instrument a little lighter too.
A little lighter?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Oh, wow.
it's like a race bike, you know, like a motorcycle. You wanna shave weight here and there without messing up the performance of it. And the lighter, I think, this double bass is, especially where that's a problem area, man. If you scoop it too much in the fingerboard, you're definitely gonna have it moving and twisting and doing things. But with that design, I can scoop the hell out of it. Carbon fiber's holding it straight, and you know, you can plane that thing down. You're never going to reach the carbon fiber. I mean, you have a ton of times you can get your fingerboard replaned, but it's going to stay.
Will you be able to fit all the pickups under it, like with no problem?
Yeah, and also, if I know you're going to be a slap player and you're going to be slapping, the pickup will be inside the fingerboard. So all you have to do is take the plug from your channel blaster. Like I can show you here. I have one. You can take your cable that goes to the pickup, which your pickup on when I saw the channel blaster comes like this, and you can plug them in and remove them and change to different pickups, but without having to, you know, it's kind of. You can also switch phase by just flipping it. So if you want to reverse the phase on a pickup, you can do that. Anyway, you'll be able to take this and just plug right into the fingerboard. And the slap pickup's built inside of the fingerboard. So you never really have to worry about it falling off or, you know, being sealed in there. The wiring and everything's going to be stable forever.
It's so crazy that you're always coming up with all these crazy ideas. It's like it's never-ending story.
Yeah, I think, you know, the pickup is how I started in this business. A double bass
So
pickup.
what was the first pickup that you made? Like, was it what was piezo or magnetic?
Piezo, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a chrome bracket. I've seen them around. Like people still use them. Chrome bracket that clamped to your bridge. It had all the electronics and the pots.
Uh-huh.
And then the original ones, I drilled the bridges out and put a piezo under each fingerboard and I blended them all on this thing. And, you know, it was really crude. It worked better than anything on the market, you know, anything that was built. So, and I built it from there. Like, that's just going to be my lifelong quest. I'll never just be like, yeah, that's it. Because there's always tweaks you can make and more efficient, you know. Just like when I started the Channel Blaster and Blast Colt, we had the Channel Blaster 1, which was a pedal blender box, a lot like
I remember that one.
The King doll heads were like that as well. And at Blast Colt, I like, oh, it's perfect time. I can redesign the electronics, make them work a little smoother with less obscure parts. We're using some really hard to get parts for those other ones. And we came up with that pedal, looks really cool, you know, but the problem is you still have to have a stereo cable to go from your bass into that. And that was the problem with all of the rockabilly style pickups. There's stereo pickups, you've got 2 pickups, and then you go in the blender box somewhere else, or 2 amps or whatever. So I want to take that away, because it's like, you fuck up your stereo cable in some little town, you're not going to be playing with the stereo cable anymore. You're just going to be playing whatever comes out mono, and there goes your system. So and also we're selling a lot of basses at Blast Bolt, and most of our pickups are going on our own basses. So I'm like, I need to incorporate all the electronics into the instrument, more like a guitar, to where it's not like, yeah, you got to have this thing and the special cable and, you know, all of these things that could go wrong. And that's where the Channel Blaster 2 came out. I took those circuit boards we were using. It's the same circuit, even the same FETs, because I like using the FETs instead of op amps. They sound a little warmer, more like tubes, more analog. And just shrunk it down on surface mount board and put everything on board. That way now it's just with you. You don't have to worry about your pedal. Did I bring my pedal? Did I bring my cables? Do I have this and that? You just, like, you didn't bring your cable? Cool, borrow your guitar cable and plug in your amp and go. So it's a lot easier, you know?
Those pickups are awesome. So how many different pickups have you made at the Blast Cult? Or actually, how many pickups you have?
Well, the versions.
How many versions? Yes.
Yeah, the versions I have now, I do a plain single pickup bridge piezo that looks like this. I do them in wood as well. This one's acrylic and perloid. That comes with just a jack and the thumb tensioning screw for your bridge. And it's called a monolux. It's just like a simple jazz guy, whatever, whoever wants to amplify their instrument without having all the preamp. Maybe they have gear that they like to use and they're playing in a coffee shop or whatever. You know, this is a really clean, unfiltered bridge pickup system. It works like this as well. I don't know if a lot of people probably haven't seen these close up, but there is a tension screw. You can see it right here. And it goes through the leg of the bridge and pushes the piezo here up toward the wing. This is the wing of the bridge. So it's pushing and putting pressure that you choose what pressure goes into it. And it pushes up on the bridge. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. And I started doing that years ago, realizing that first off, piezo means pressure. That's what the word means, right? And for these things to work right, you know, if you've used another brand that either, you know, wedges into your bridge or gets clamped onto the top, you can't change that pressure unless you stick other wedges in it, and you know there's no accurate way to control the amount of pressure that your element is getting pushed to the bridge, which is the most important part of the pickup and how these things actually work. Less pressure, you get a lot more output and a lot more low end, but you could also get feedback as well. So if you can just reach down, say your amp's howling, because this thing's super loose, you can tighten the tensioning screw on your bridge. It takes the output down, it takes some of the woofy low out, and then you can EQ to suit whatever you're doing on your amplifier, but you're killing the feedback and you have complete control over it. It's really accurate. And the way I've designed the pickup, it has this hole in the front of it where the tensioning screw actually pushes. And then I have each different element, because I have a few elements to do different things, you know, more of a jazz, woody sound. And this one's just fat rockabilly kind of a thing. I use different materials, each one of these. Some have core rubber, spring steel, but with all of the blends of the materials that I have in them, it pushes the pressure of that tensioning screw out over the whole crystal so it doesn't break, because those things are very fragile. and it distributes the pressure evenly. And like I said, you could just dial in your tone, your volume, your output, and take the feedback out by doing that. And just like I showed on the slap pickup earlier, if there's some weird phasing thing happening, or you just can't get what you want, you can often just unplug it, flip the plug backwards and plug it back in, and you've reversed the phase. And a lot of times that sounds great in certain rooms.
So I have another question about pickups. So what about these? Do you remember giving me all of these options?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I do with my dudes. I'm like, hey man, try which one of these things do you like? Plug them in and play. And the cool thing about I've done a special system for Djordje. It has 3 channels of pickups. So you have the bridge piezo, and you also have our 4 magnetic pickups that go into your fingerboard. 1 magnetic for each string. Now you have to play steel strings for this system to work. But on his, and then you have the piezo slap as well. But he has an extra knob on the Djordje system, which would be about right here. There we go, right about there. And this extra knob that's on the Djordje, it pans from this pickup to the magnetics. So you can have full bridge piezo, or you can go switch it all the way over to magnetic, or anywhere in between. If you want 25% bridge pickup, 75% magnetic, you can do it depending on the circumstance. And it has a separate slap volume, because this one works like this. This is the 2-channel, just channel blaster 2. And you can see, let's see, it's hard to do this backwards. This is your slap. So what happens is this controls the volume of your slap. Now we've already, when this slap pickup goes into your system here, we filter out all the lows and low mids, because you don't need that. You don't want thump, 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 and your speakers popping every time you slap. So we've filtered those frequencies out. And your bass bridge tone is controlled by these 2 knobs. This one's mid, and then you got 2 little dip switches in here. 4 positions you can set where your mid gets chopped off, because when we send your bridge pickup into this system, we take out all the highs, because you're going to get that from your fingerboard pickup. So there's, a true stereo system. We're filtering this before it even gets to your EQ. But you can find where you like your mids. When you're slapping, you don't want a lot of mids, but the right mid adds a great, it adds the note, the fundamental is there. So you want a little bit of that in, and I wanted to make that mid, it's a really important part of a slap bass. So I wanted to make that user-friendly, but within usable boundaries, where if you plug it in, you can't get a sound. Why have it where it sounds like crap when it's all the way up? So I think it's pretty usable all the way around. If you play jazz, you don't slap, you turn this baby up and you're going to get those warmer mids. And then you have bass, which this is what I use, especially with CC Adcock, because I like that just low and sub bass. And this is a boost. About 12 o'clock, it's flat, but you can cut and boost. And man, it'll boost your low end and give you super fat, warm sounds. But the cool thing about Djordje, so this is the 2 pickup system. Djordje's has a knob that blends between your piezo and your magnetic, because your magnetics are rarely going to feed back, in most situations. So with his, if he's playing on a really huge stage, and not a lot of sound check time, maybe a festival or something, he's able to just go, okay, I'm not going to rely on this front house guy here in this system, and kind of roll it over to mags. And the mags have a really punchy rock and roll sound as well. And then actually blend a little of the piezo in so it sounds more natural. And then, this completely separate slap control.
That's what I love doing. I always have both pickups on, both magnetic and piezo. So if I'm playing a jazz gig, I have just tiny bit of magnetic, just to have that if I want to have like a big slide, like I want to have room.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
can add a little bit of that, because with just regular piezo pickups, you kind of you lose that, and magnetic really adds that sound. And then if I play the huge show, like if it's a stadium or arena gig, then I have a little more magnetic and a little less piezo. But I always blend those two. It always sounds great. All the sound men that I worked with, they're always impressed with the signal that I'm sending them.
Yeah, it
So
makes your life easier, especially if they're not. I mean, especially back in the day when sound guys would just go, "What are you trying to do? Why'd you bring that thing?"
Oh yeah.
This guitar that does that. Like, oh man, you're fighting with them all the time. So it does make it easier for them. Like, I started doing that magnetic system. I had an EMG endorsement, so they were always kind of behind me, helping me, sending me stuff to work on, make my own pickup systems with. Like, try this preamp, try these pickups, try this piezo crystal, try this. I was getting all this cool gear, and then when I would be in like Northern California, I'd go buy EMG and work with techs and go, "Hey man, this is what I got now." And they would laugh and go, "God, man, look at that spray mess. Look at those solders, man. Does that even work?" Then they'd show me like, "Okay, cool. Here's how you do it. And I think if you put this circuit in front of this circuit, it's probably a better way to do it." And they helped me a lot refine the sound. But EMG winds those coils for our upright bass magnetic pickup. And
that's great. Like it's magnetics really sound cool. I'm always a fan of more natural tone, but I always want to have the magnetics on. It's just it's kind of like it sounds even more natural if I have piezo with magnetic instead of just piezo.
once you get a big fat rock band going behind you, a live show,
oh, absolutely,
that's how it becomes really useful, because you're not trying to necessarily at that level and that sound level. It's more about just being heard and making those bass notes ring out on top of the slap and everything, So it's a little sacrifice in getting a carved bass acoustic tone, but you get balls. You get tons of balls with it. So I was doing those pickups. The first ones I was using, I did for Cypress Hill. They were going to tour with Christian Oldie Wolbers from Fear Factory. He played 5-string double bass, and he played it in the metal band. And so he immediately was like, "Man, we need to hook up and figure this out." I'm doing a tour with Cypress Hill, and we're doing all double bass, and we're playing huge, loud stages, and that was perfect for them, So
absolutely.
And
which band was Christian playing before that? Was it like Ratman or something?
Ratman, yeah. Christian played in one of the coolest psychobilly bands in Europe, the Ratman.
Ratman, okay, so I remember correctly.
And all that. That album's cool.
Yeah, I remember you gave me that album. I remember that. All right,
Jim
so you have a question.
When I live with him, he's like, "Check this band out." Like, that's
really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Another Jimbo discovery. You have a question. Will the pickup system that Djordje uses be available for sale? That's my question as well.
Them out here and there. They're difficult to build right now because I didn't build that circuit into the board, so there's a lot of handwork that goes into them. But we make them now. If you want one, order one up. But we're going to release Djordje's system in a couple of months before Christmas, with his logo, and it'll be a little more factory,
All right, I'm waiting for that. We're going to announce that on the Slapstream and Art of Slap Bass and blastcall.com, Stijepovic.com.
And I'm building Djordje's new bass as well. We've been working on bass for Djordje because it's so different than the normal 145. And we have all these cool little custom things we're doing for it. And it should have been.
We're keeping that a secret. So let's not talk too much about
it. Yeah.
It's going
to be dope. That's all.
It's going to be the coolest bass ever.
I mean, you had this idea for how many years, and we started.
I had that idea for a long time, but the main parts we did it. So it's just one more time, like for you to come to Orange, and we should be done, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. All right. So you have another question about pickups. Can the strings be nylon wrapped steel strings for those pickups?
Yeah, like Eurosonics or something. Yeah, definitely. If they have a steel core, they'll work with the magnetics.
Oh, okay. All right. So James said Strangy has an interesting setup with Schlage magnetic and KK. Oh, maybe Schaller and KK neck pickups soldered together, and you can use a standard cable. I'm not sure if we were clear, but for the new Channel Blaster 2 pickups, you're using just regular cable. What Jason was talking about with the stereo cable, that was the old system. That was the Channel Blaster 1, and you're not making those anymore, right?
No, everything just comes out of your base. It's all built into the tailpiece.
Yep.
Even the battery fits in the tailpiece, so it's all self-contained. And you use a mono cable. Even on Djordjes, you don't need it to come out like that. Strangy, yeah, man. I mean, when you start putting all these different people's pickups together and wiring them together, you have problems with impedance and levels and cancel noise. They cancel each other out or they don't. Phasing problems, and you also have like a ton of shit taped to the front of your bass. You know what I mean?
I gotta say the Blaskoff pickup, the Djordje pickup is the best one I ever tried. I'm so thankful that you did that. And all right, so we have like a few questions. Okay, have a bunch of questions from James Dukin. All right, so Jason, do you still have the Lonely Star shirt I gave you?
So, which one? The
Lonely Stars?
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, I still wear t-shirts from like 20 years ago.
All right.
I don't ever throw them away.
Okay, so this guy is the reason I got an upright bass. Saw Road Kings in '97, open for Mike Ness at the Glass House. Never looked back.
Oh, that was a fun tour.
And one compliment for Derek, maybe. Your guy at the Orange County shop did a above and beyond job fitting my new bridge. He deserves a Christmas bonus.
Yeah, he sure does. He's a good one. He's a good one.
Derek?
Check it out, man. The cool thing about Derek was he apprenticed with me at King Double Bass. He needed apprentice hours for his college degree. So he came and worked for me when I was in my garage doing the double basses out of my garage in Costa Mesa. And I taught him there. He would drive from LA there, which is, one way was an hour and a half to 2 hours every day, roll out. And I would, hey man, why don't you sweep the floor and clean the spray booth out? And then we were working crazy hours and things like that. So he actually went on to make a career of luthiery. I mean, he worked for me a couple of years, and he worked for Tay Guitars, and moved to Austin and started working for guitar companies there, and then started his own company. And full circle, like I was moving here and I needed somebody to take over that shop and run it with me. So the timing was perfect, and he wound up just moving back to California. Full circle. Now he works at Blaskoff again, and he's running that out there. He's great.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I was hard on him. The whole smash guitars he was building and the splinters, and I was a dick back then. Probably still am, but not near as bad. Mellowed in my old age.
I met you after that period.
Hard.
A question: why do so many players shave the neck? What does that do?
Shave the neck? I don't know. I mean, maybe they have a big Chinese thick neck from a unplayable instrument, and they have to shave it down to be more comfortable, to be more like a K or something.
That would be my guess. I don't know, like what was the.
Yeah, or maybe he's talking about Romberg bevel.
Slimmer and thicker necks. So who knows?
A lot of players shave off the old Romberg bevel, on the fingerboard. Sometimes those cheaper basses these days come with the bevel. You don't need that if you're a slap player. I mean, some people still like it, but
Interesting. Blast Cult ever considering making flight bases?
That's what I make now. I mean, if you want to fly with it, you take the neck off and put it in a small case and ship it that way.
All right. And Thomas said, damn, always inventing. He's impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
I love him. He's the best. You got to get him on your show, man.
Oh, definitely.
He's a very innovative player.
He's great. I featured him on theartofslapbass.com. So I'm trying like not to feature everyone from theartofslapbass.com at the beginning, just like to spread out.
Sure.
Spread out the guys,
Some
other guys that didn't have a chance to be introduced to my crowd. All right. In Tiger Army, your bass regularly overpowers Nick's guitar. That's thanks to Blast Cult, but I hope it's with a taste, not without a taste. You don't want to hear just a taste.
That was one of the last live shows I saw here was when you guys were in London. Dude, that was your last show of the tour, I think, too. But
yeah, that was my last show in my life.
I've always dug Tiger Army, man. They've really carved out from just being like, hey, we're this psychobilly band. We're never like that, really, but he's made this thing, this sound it's its own whole vibe and scene. And
absolutely. That's where I'm drawn to, you know. Me and you, we talked about it earlier a little bit about it. Like, I always prefer when somebody has its own unique thing. It doesn't have to be technically advanced or this or that, but if it's a unique sound and unique voice, that's what I appreciate the most. And then if you have good songs, that's what really everyone cares about, you know. So
yeah, oh yeah.
Nobody cares like how many slaps you play. I mean, they do for like half of the minute in a solo, but that's about it.
Yeah, like anything, once you've seen somebody just, you know, then it's like, okay, I saw that. Let's hear some songs and have fun. You know, I mean,
absolutely. All right, James says, I used steel strings for 10 plus years. I love the volume. The sound was never close to traditional gut sounds. Is there a future pickup that can make a more traditional sound out of magnetic strings? I assume steel strings, not magnetic strings. I mean, I would say that I have like I can have pretty natural sound with my Blast Cult bass because it's if I just use more piezo and no magnetic or less magnetic, it sounds pretty traditional. I sometimes play with Deke Dickerson. Sometimes we play with some guys from the 50s, blues and rock and roll, and I go with a more traditional sound, and you know, nobody complained ever. So
yeah, I think you do for steel strings. You get a good traditional sound. I mean, I remember Fish Tank Ensemble too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And like, you know, because there was no drummer, so you were doing all of the percussion, and that was a monster gig, man. Everybody on that stage was a virtuoso, but the bass was especially out front because there was no drummer. And
it was kind of like a high noon of music, you know.
But you didn't make them harsh. I mean, there was something there. And tell him, like, I do low tension steel strings called lowlifes that are made to kind of vibrate like a gut. You know, you wouldn't want to probably play arco with them as much, but if you're a slap player, that's what they're designed for. They're low tension steel string, and they work with magnetics.
Oh, since we haven't talked about the strings at all that you're making, so how many different strings are you making for upright bass?
They're all kind of based on, well, the steels that I wind are, like I said, they're called lowlifes, and they're low tension steel strings. They're basically like a solo set tuned normal 440, you know. And this, my favorite set, what I'm playing here are tonemongers. I have a plain gut D and G, and then the lowlife E and A, and they're very similar. I mean, I'm not plugged in now. I'm acoustic. I can plug in, but I'll let you hear acoustically. Maybe you can. The difference between the D and the A, you know. So very similar sound and completely different materials. And that was the idea, because I think a lot of times I make them as well. The E and A plain guts are so huge, and it's hard to get a long, punchy E out of a gut E. So I wanted the sound of the guts to just cross over, so you can play. This is really easy on your finger, and it has that warm gut. Plug in too, so you can hear it through the amp. But
you have one more question about the strings. Did you think of making different sizes of strings for the double bass as there are for guitars?
Like sizes, I think it's more with definitely with the gut strings. It's more about how they're catagated than the actual. I mean, people still go by the gauges of the guts, but if they're catagated tighter, and the catagation is the way they're wound, it's basically a flat strip of intestinal lining that's twisted, which is catagated to make it round. Now it's a twisted round thing, and it gets sanded and polished. So the tighter the winding is, the more tension are going to be on the string. So we do kind of this medium, because we don't want them flappy either. And as we do the E and A slightly tighter catagated. It's more about the final fin. They're organic, so we stretch them all and sand them and polish them in house. But it's more about how they're finished and what they're finished to tension wise and tone wise, where we're going. Less about the gauge. The steels I've developed these years ago, and I've stuck with them because they work really well. Like I've shown you, like very similar to the gut D and G, except for unlike a gut E and A, they have more sustain and more most of my bands, and I'm sure you're the same way. E is an important note. Reverend Horton E, that big E ringing out on breaks, and E is a popular key to play. And if your E sounds like mud or just you can't hear it, that's your most powerful money note right there, right? So that thing has to, even if you want it to sound like a gut and that organic warm tone, you also want it to hit hard as well. So that was the compromise here. And I know you play the orange amps too. I gotta say, like once I got, and I turned you on to that as well. Once I got you onto that and the terror bass, because I really like how it changed bass players' lives. Because we already have to carry this massive thing around and watch it, babysit it constantly. So carrying around an SVT, which was or some big 300-400 watt tube head that could actually make this thing sound huge, and an 810 cabinet. It was part of the whole package. So now you're in drummer territory, carrying all this stuff around, except for this thing is way more fragile. Anyway, the Class D amp came out, and it works really well for bass because I can take this head and carry it on the plane with me, no matter what they backline they have for me at the festival I'm flying into or whatever. I know I'm going to get a good tone. And it just happened, like the way Aid voiced this amp, the preamp is really simple. It just has treble, mid, and bass, and a volume and a gain. It's almost, the preamp is voiced for a double bass. The mids are in that perfect spot where you can actually turn up some of the mids. And I know you moved on to the full tube because you got like bass techs and roadies and Learjet and all that stuff. But I'm still rolling the Class D because I know I can just throw it in my backpack and roll, And then I got these are cool. They're modular, so they're Siegel 12-inch cabinets. And I was telling dudes at Orange, like, yeah, I'll need an 810 cab here and stuff. And they're like, man, you're in London. Are you sure you want an 810 cab? Those are really hard to get around. I mean, we're going to take that on the tube, the bus. Where are you going to move that around? I was like, yeah, maybe I should go London style. What do you got? And they're like, we have these single 12-inch cabs, and you can double them up, triple them up, whatever, and you'll be surprised how much volume they put out, and they're lightweight. You can carry them around with one finger. So they gave me these T12s, and man, I'm on 1 on my gain and less than 1 on my volume now, just so it doesn't creep out the mic. But if I turn that thing up, I can have this place rattle. They're massive sounding speakers without a lot of gear to carry around. That's what I love about them. Anyway, they work well with the channel blaster, and you can hear how even these strings sound across the board. The sustain, that's the G playing gut. That's the A steel. That's the E steel, and they still sound great slapped. So I'll just do a country open string pattern going from the D to the A, so you can hear the difference maybe, or you can't hear the difference. It's the idea. So you still get the warmth with these low tension steels. I love these. I haven't changed them because I don't know how to make them any better. And I'm stuck on them. These are what I love. This is my favorite strings. So we have this set, which is called the tone mongers. We have the gut buckets, which are all plain guts. And then we have the low life, which are all the low tension steels. And then we just came out with a new model called faux mongers, which have a they're a little more inexpensive. They're about the same price as the low lifes, and they have a synthetic gut D and G. So it's a kind of more of an affordable tone monger. Guts are expensive. That's just, you got to murder an animal and do a lot of really horrible, nasty work to their intestines to make these strings. So you have to pay for them. But the tone, you can't, it's hard to match, especially down here. I mean, that's just what makes an upright. Just that blended with the wood is just, that's the sound.
I always love the sound of the guts, but
Yeah.
Were kind of my thing, and I enjoy playing guts, but I could never play guts in the bands that I play with.
And also, I think with the speed you play at, like some of that stuff, you want that quick return.
Yeah.
You play some pretty high tension steel. Your steel signature strings are pretty damn stiff, but it's so that those slap patterns are more audible and cleaner and crisper at the high speed. I think, isn't that why you do that?
Yes, that was always my thing. I mean, it's a little harder to play them, but my goal is always the tone and how that actually going to sound like at the end. So I never worried too much if I'm, if my fingers going to be, screwed up, which they are right now. You can see I was doing videos, like I was doing some new patterns, like, I want to do this and this and this, and then
what's that weird spot? Is that from like drag triplet or something?
And I was trying to invent something new, and so so
cool. I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's cool, except
is it ready for public consumption?
Painful.
It's painful.
But I love gut strings, but but steel strings were always kind of like my thing. You have a question about the gut strings. Are they sheep, goat, or cat?
They're sheep.
Okay.
Cat that's just a myth. Cat comes from catagated gut. They were never made out of cat guts ever.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know that comes from, people said cat gut because catagated, cat short for cat.
Okay. You see, I was never. First of all, I'm not a gearhead, so I don't know much about it. But as far as gut strings, like I know even less. I just know when somebody sounds good and somebody doesn't sound good. And my thing with guts was also the intonation. Intonation on gut strings can often go, very fast. Can not be that
It's
precise.
less. It works in my favor playing like no technique style. I can get close to it and then kind of worm my way into the right note. It's less revealing than a steel string, a high tension steel string, for sure, man. And then
Yeah,
you
have to be precise.
And it's a quicker, more resonant note, less sustain, more resonant, quicker decay.
All right, so another question about the amps. For years, I heard 12-inch were bad for bass, 10 for low, 15 for high. Is this the old way of the dinosaurs?
I think it's a lot of subjective taste, but I've always been a fan of 10s. But in my shop in Orange, I have that 412 cabinet that's the same size as a 810, and that sounds better than an 810 all day long.
Huh.
And that's why, and I think you get the lows from the 12, the sub lows that you don't get from a 10, and a 15 by itself, unless you're running 10s and a 15. I don't know about just rolling 15 on a double bass. It's too muddy.
I have experience with that. I actually, when I started playing Orange amps, and it was because of you. You introduced me to the Terror amp, and then I loved it. And they sent it to me, and then I played that one like for a while. Then I switched to the 4-stroke, which is my favorite amp by far. And they sent me 410s and 115, and 410s were awesome, and 15, I did not like it. I did not like it at all, even with the combination with the 10s.
Yeah.
And then I got like 4 more 10s. So right now I'm playing 810 cabinet.
I think it tightens up your tone. I mean, if you use the 15 as a sub and you learn how you have a crossover and you do it right, that can add. But if you're playing a big stage, the stage has subs. You don't need to do that job. The sound man can do that job. It might even create problems on stage with feedback and the other players. So, like I said, man, the 12s, they have a little more low than the 10s. And the drivers that Orange is using are really tight. And always, I collect hi-fi gear, and you can, if you spend enough money on a 15-inch driver and buy a super expensive one with the right magnet, it will be tight like a 10, and it'll do what you want it to do. But if you're going to buy an off-the-shelf 15 cabinet from a major manufacturer, you're not going to get that type of a driver in that cabinet. There's just it wouldn't be financially worth it for them to.
Oh, I get it. See, wow. I'm not an expert. I just know that, whenever I see a 15, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, man, it's never a good thing, especially if you show up a backline and that's all they have. Like, yeah, man, we got you the big speakers. Like, oh man, it's going to sound like mud, and
absolutely
have the latency a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's not ideal.
For me, it was bad experience. I was not into it at all. You have a shout out from Miguel. Send my back.
Yeah, Miguel worked at Blastcult for a while. Now he's fighting fires and COVID.
Missed the Blastcult days. Had some good times.
Yeah, man.
Another question for you is, let me see. Did I miss it? Any collaboration with Jesse Dayton soon?
I mean, we always collaborate, whether it's yeah, I mean, that's my homie. We've been talking about doing a guitar and doing a new album all for the years. It'll happen. Road
soon. Kings reunion album?
Yeah, for sure.
So
we have we even have recordings that we started. We just need to.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, we need to get it together and finish it.
Will it be punk or country?
Oh, it'll be definitely more toward the punk rock. Actually, it's going to be a lot of the songs are just kind of catchy, poppy rockabilly-ish tunes. But
That's
stuff,
my favorite.
he has his country outlet now. He doesn't need to put country music into the Road Kings. He knows it's got to be different, and I trust his songwriting too. He writes some great stuff. So we'll just wait and make something exciting. Hopefully, I mean, it's cool when you don't have to. You're not depending. Your life doesn't depend on the album. You can branch out and be more creative and less. I mean, it's more fun because you can go all the directions you want to go and experiment a little more than if you like, this is my job, it better be perfect. And
it
actually turns out being better that way.
You have to get on a chart or something.
Less expectations. Yeah, trying to chart with Kanye.
All right, another question. All right, for me, from Sandbox Bullies, learn how to spell my name. You have one extra E in my name. I have 2 DJs. Joking. All right, so question is, have your thoughts changed on deuce bridges? You know, I'm not sure what I told you before, but I was never a fan of any untraditional bridges at all. You know, I'm not sure if you watched the Slapstream with Jason from the beginning, and he explained why is the bridge shaped that particular way, and it was built that way like for hundreds of years. It really makes sense and it sounds better. I can't any other shape. I tried them, probably all of them. None of them kind of worked for me really, and for a long time I was against those adjusters, the wheels as well. But once Jason made the ones with, they're kind of like a star, I started using them, and I still use those adjusters. But if you ask me my preferable choice, it would be just the straight traditional bridge.
Yeah, it's funny, Jason. I gotta say, there's some great ideas that he implemented on it, especially the sideways bridge foot. And Jason is mostly, I mean, he does tons of classical setups and works on classical instruments, vintage 100, 200, 300-year-old instruments. And he designed that. I mean, we've worked together for a while now. And he also races dirt bikes. And I'm like, damn, Jason, that thing looks more like a dirt bike part than a bass part, but it works and it has this cool function. And I know a lot of people that use those now, and they, for the road and whatever, but you wouldn't put one of those on the classical bass, would you, Jason? And you wouldn't even put adjusters really on. I've never seen a serious orchestra bass ain't gonna have adjusters, is it? I mean, you want the most.
I don't know really. It was never my thing, but I'm using your adjusters now, so that's cool. I don't have like such a strong opinion about the adjusters, but I do about differently shaped bridges and a material. But I mean, it is what it is. I always love like when people experiment and try to find their own thing, and
me too.
Cool. All right, so. Okay, he said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Exactly. Another one from Jason. Has Kim Neckerman approached you to make a blast called Coffin Bass?
No, Kim makes his own basses. And he does a pretty good job of it. For his style, he always blows me away. I mean, I think he's used some of our parts for his pickups. Maybe I know he's ordered a few things from us, but he was kind of doing the same thing I was back in the early '90s. It's like hodgepodging things together and making his own stuff because what was out there didn't work. And he's got a really specific setup, bass style, scale length, and pickup system that works perfect for them. I never have a hard time hearing when I see the Necromantics, and I'm always get blown away by his playing and the whole thing. But yeah, we'll approach each other and drink a beer, play poker together, things like that. But yeah.
Well, we have the exact same question from Nick Presser, except with capital N for Necroman. Okay, so Jason answered that, and Sandbook Bullies apologize for misspelling on my name, but they still didn't get it right.
I mean, that's a tough one. But this is how you explain it to me. It's DJ or DJE.
Exactly.
That's how you remember it. So DJ or DJE.
And it's always, I mean, I like when I talk to Americans that have a problem with the pronunciation of the name. I say like DJ like Django, because it's the same actually letter. In Serbian we have J, which is spelled DJ. So
yeah.
Yep. All right, so Robbie, was Jason your old bassist making dues bridges? Okay, so that's a question for somebody else. For Robbie, was Jason? Okay. Another one about Kim for you, I guess. Have you ever noticed that Kim plays double slaps with his thumb?
I've just noticed he rips, you know, like, you know, what are you, I don't even know what he's doing. I don't know. Yeah, he hauls ass.
Yeah.
I've never tried to figure it out. I mean, it's his thing, and he's really good at it. Just like the coffin bass. Like, I'm not gonna make a coffin bass.
Yeah, it's
adopted that thing.
Not cool to play, to do the to copy someone's.
Well, I think is if he's an influencer, there's a ton of kids, that get into double bass because they watched him play, or they watched Tiger. I mean, you guys, or whatever, Stray Cats even. And so you got to start with that, man, I love him. He's the best. I'm going to learn how to play like that. And then you grow musically, and hopefully that's your influence, and you steal from him every once in a while and move your own way. That's how it should work.
Absolutely. But there's something about the design that I like, that he was creative and he created his own thing. He created his own the shape of the bass and all of that. But when I see other people playing coffin basses, it's that's not cool. I mean, he should influence you in a way that that he was creative and figured out something unique for himself. Just like you making the same thing, it's automatically not unique. So,
right. I always thought that, and those coffin basses were made well before Necromantics. I mean, I think they were making them hundreds of years ago, right? Somebody did it. I've seen a few old pictures of coffin basses.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I have. And Kim he was a carpenter, cabinet builder, woodworker, and he made his own, and it was perfect for his band.
Absolutely.
Perfect look. The aesthetic was right. The cross F-hole or the cross scroll, and he made it to where he actually made the scale and how it works fit his style, which perpetuated how it fit and how it works. So it's like this circle of, it's his sound as well, and the way that thing's constructed and how he sets it up it's his thing. It's so far out there. If you copy it, everyone's just going to go like, oh yeah, like Kim Necroman,
Oh yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, he's got it on lock. You don't really want to try to start a new coffin band. That's
Thomas says, "Oh, Jason, miss you, bud. We all miss you here in California."
We got to listen to some Champagne for All. Frantic Flintstone, Champagne for All. Tomas, his bass playing is sick on that album. That whole record's good. Yeah.
That's a cool album. All right, so I think that's all for now as far as questions go. That's creepy and cool, but that's it. Okay, so another thing I wanted to ask you: when are you going back to Orange?
Shoot, I don't know, man. I don't want to get. There's a travel ban coming back here now, so I don't want to have to get stuck and have to do the isolation thing and possibly not be let back in. So I'm waiting for the COVID to cool down there a bit too. And I think especially in California, I don't know, I'm not there. You are. It seems like things are kind of slow, like buying going to the store, stock of like the wood shop and everything seems to be like kind of behind right now. I want everything to catch up so I'm not stuck there in slow motion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I came back to US a couple weeks ago, and there was no quarantine or nothing. They you just had to be careful, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's definitely strange times. Well, I can't wait to see you back here, and so we can.
Yeah, man, we're gonna finish up the bass, get your pickup sorted, finalized.
Are you gonna do, if there is a NAMM this year? I mean, next year, are you gonna do it?
No, it's closed. They canceled it.
They already canceled it. Oh, okay.
Canceled the Winter NAMM. They might do like a extra big Nashville Summer NAMM.
Oh, next year?
Yeah, I don't know. But Winter NAMM's canceled.
Oh.
Crazy business, man. First one.
Yeah.
I mean, probably since they started, it's never. I don't think they've gone without a Winter NAMM.
So crazy. All right, so couple. All right, we've been over 2.5 hours.
Woo! I talk too much, man. I know. I just go off on tangents and.
Yeah, I'm actually, happy about this, because there's no limit. It's my show. I can talk to all these people that I love and respect as long as they want. If somebody wants to watch it, gonna watch it. If somebody doesn't want to watch it, doesn't have to. So it's a cool thing. But I want to find out all this information, and I know how much I wanted to find all this information when I was a kid. So now everybody can just go and to my channel and get all this information.
Yeah, it's cool. The span of the artists that you've had on so far are cool. Like I said at first, some of them I didn't know about, and I was like, oh wow, he's got a slap thing that's never been done, and that guy, and then watching the guys that I do know, and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's important to show different approach to the instrument and different approach to slap technique.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions. All right, so now I would like to remind the audience, like to ask more questions. If you have, now's the time, because we're probably gonna stop soon. And okay, so talk about. Okay, so I want to hear, what were your slap bass influences and bass influences when you were learning how to play bass?
Well, I think the thing that really made me want to play double bass is "Stand By Me." I heard the song, and I mean, it's not the most rockabilly thing in the world, but it's where I realized that's not an electric bass. I was a big music fan to start with, and my parents have great record collection, all of that. But when I heard that do 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 do, it was just that quick decay upright bass note thing, and I'm like, wow, what is that? Why does that sound so much cooler than on a pick, on an electric bass? And I realized that's the big thing. It looks like a violin. Cool, want one of those. So that's where I got started. And in Minden, so I grew up just riding motocross and enduro dirt bikes were my thing. I rode all the time, BMX bicycles. And then it turned into like skateboarding later on. So we would build these big ramps to launch motorcycles or big dirt jumps or big wood ramps for BMX bikes to just launch and do Evel Knievel stuff like kids do when you're 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, whatever. Every time we build something crazy and want to get like pumped up to just, send it off this thing, we throw in Rock This Town. because it has that cool. It starts in that open D chord, dun, 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 and then you just get hyped up. And then when the bass and drums kick in, you just throw it, man. And it's hit the ramp and break your arm or your leg or whatever. So that was our like redneck Dukes of Hazzard. We're gonna jump something song. We'd have a crappy little jam box. We'd go click. We just fly, you know. So rockabilly is kind of stuck in my head too. So that was like kind of the second time I noticed that's not an electric bass, right?
Okay, but how old were you back then when you heard "Stand by Me" and "Rock This Town"?
Well, "Stand by Me" was definitely a lot earlier than but "Rock This Town," you know, when it came out, MTV, I was maybe 13. Something 12, 13. And then and we used that song years after that too. Anything we wanted to like try, like here it's going, we got the Rock This Town on, man. Here we go. Get ready to dial 911. You know, ER room.
That's so cool. And so basically main influences were "Stand by Me" and Lee Rocker.
Down. And then I got in when I started skateboarding. I found out about punk rock, that whole thing. That was, you know, early '80s. By like '85 or '86, I was listening to, you know, Sex Pistols and, you know, Suicidal and DI and Circle Jerks and Black Flag and all that stuff, and I was just into that. At the same time, I love the rockabilly, so I always followed the Stray Cats and bought the albums. And then I learned about psychobilly through Jimbo, because he had some of the early stuff, the Meteors and that kind of stuff. And then I was like, that's perfect. I'm a country dude from Minden, Louisiana that likes punk rock. I should be playing redneck music mixed with punk rock. Perfect. And that's what, you know, and Jimbo and Jim were developing that sound with Taz, the double kick, and they were doing what I was like, that's perfect. So I would just go to every Horton Heat and go, God, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Like every time. And I saw them 8 billion times, man.
Oh, you still do? You still go to their shows?
Oh, hell yeah.
They're fun. They're a great band. I love them. And any other psychobilly bands or psychobilly players that influenced you besides Jimbo?
Man, I love the Guana Bats too. I thought that was a really powerful band that wasn't just like, you know, they had some really good songs. I mean, I like good stuff too, but after 5 of those bands, you're like, I need some songs. And that early psychobilly British in Europe scene, it was kind of like the early California punk rock where, you know, the Dead Kennedys sounded way different than Black Flag. That sounded way different than Circle Jerks. It sounded way different. You know, everyone had their own sound. And I think that early days of the psychobilly were like that a lot. You have the Rat Man.
Very creative.
Very, very cool blend of how they perceived hillbilly people in America and brought it here. And it's always cool once it crosses the ocean, you know? I mean, historically, it's been like that. Like the Brits took the early black music from America and put their twist on it, and then we got it back to put our twist on it, and it's cool how it's evolved like that. But once it goes overseas, man, it always does something weird and cool, usually, you know? And I think they had all these great bands, Frantic Flintstones, you know, all those early Cats Keep Rockin' and Clubfoot, Rockin' or whatever compilations. I was into those. And
Cats Keep Rockin' was the first psychobilly cassette I ever heard.
Dude, I took the Cats Keep Rockin' Volume 2 album to my hair, to my barber, and I was like, man, can you make me look like that? He's like, that's a cartoon. You want me to make you look like a cartoon? Like, yeah, man, make me look like that bass player with the weird dreadlock pompadour thing. He's like, I don't know, dude, I don't think I can do that.
So did you do it?
I love those were big influences early on, and Jimbo turned me on to all that. So it was like,
all right. So thank you, Jimbo.
Yeah, totally.
I'm trying to get him on the show, but you know they're doing their show on Saturday, and they're practicing a lot for those live shows.
Yeah, I mean, they care.
You have to
People
practice
leave.
almost every day or something.
No, you can't just do the same internet set every time. You got to keep it fresh and break out.
With internet sets, it's harder because you have to kind of change the set more often than you have to when you're playing tour. When you go on tour, you have like maybe 2 or 3 different set lists ready, and then you're playing for 5-6 weeks, rotating that. And then, but for
the cool thing is like Jim knows. Jim is a hard-working dude, man. No matter what's happened in all the years of those guys just working, he still is a hard worker that doesn't just want to rely on his old stuff and chops. He always kind of wants to keep it fresh, and I think he still loves what he does. I know Jimbo does, Jimbo hasn't changed since I knew him back in Dallas, like when we lived together. He's the same cool guy, this most friendly, approachable, help out any kid that wants to learn how to play bass. Yeah, play my bass. Check it out. Do this. Here, try that. I mean, he's just the best. He's great for our scene and to promote this instrument as well. He's always just been a stand-up, cool, friendly dude that you can learn from,
That's cool. Mark Rubin just said, I'm enjoying the strings quite a bit. He mentioned earlier that he just strung his bass with lowlifes.
Oh, cool.
And he said, I'm enjoying the strings quite a bit. And P.S. Jimbo is the sweetest you'll meet.
Yeah, man. And I love Mark. Mark is a talented dude, man. And I think he's in New Orleans now, right?
Yeah, he moved out to New Orleans like, I don't know, a long time ago now, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So weird because I always associated Mark and Kevin with Austin and Texas, and then he moved to New Orleans. And we actually hung out like a few times when I was on tour with the Tiger Army. And
it's funny. I go there a lot. I haven't seen him out, but I've heard he was there and playing in a klezmer band at Reps, which is
I think he mostly plays, New Orleans jazz stuff. But Mark, he plays.
I mean, there are some players there, man. I bet Mark knows all those dudes. There are some seriously badass double bass players in New Orleans from that whole jazz scene that. I don't know if they travel a lot out of there, but when you go to New Orleans, you see them. They're everywhere.
Yep.
Some monsters. And he's there, so he added to the monster pool.
James said, I saw Lee Rocker's Dragon bass at your shop. I'm not sure which one is that. You could feel the bass.
Maybe he's talking about the cat. Maybe the one with the cat on the back.
Probably.
Yeah, his daughter painted a cool oil acrylic painting on the back, a stretched out crazy cat. That was the last bass I built for the Stray Cat tour last year.
How many basses you build up for Lee Rocker?
He has a lot of them. I think. It's got to be 6, maybe 7.
6 basses for him?
He has one of these fully carved ones.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I made like 3 of these in my life, and he has one of them in blonde. It's really cool. It's got this like Arabic striping on it, but it's just totally natural. And it sounds like this. It's this massive acoustic bass. I think he's in the studio, but he has probably 3 or 4 Kings, and he only has 1 Blast Colt though. Yeah, that was the one I built for him last year.
That was the design was based on some guitar, right?
Yeah, an Antigua Fender paint
Yes.
job. The old and
That's
they
what I was
would
thinking
kind of
about.
turn greeny, and his son Justin has a really cool vintage one, and he brought it in. It had already yellowed. It was kind of yellow and brown, but the pick guard on those things didn't change color. They were the original. Like how it was like a kind of a grayish mint color that burst. And it was a flaw. They burnt somehow the binding on all these hollow body guitars Fender made on this run burnt. They got burned on the edges. So they wanted to just figure a way to make them sellable. So they came up with that paint job, and it's a really cool burst paint job that you kind of tape off areas and burst and then peel the tape, and it looks like has its own look. Yeah. I just built an NC or UK DC with the paint job. Same paint job as I did on his base.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was it. And that one has a removable neck as well.
Do you make like more double basses or guitars or bass guitars?
And I think it evens out. See, it's kind of in sections. Like right now, I'm buying all the materials, molding the ribs, and making upright bass parts now that I'll start assembling like soon. Like there's one there, I have one in the mold, and then I have a ton of tops there. So my next run is going to be primarily double basses, and I'll be mixing in some guitar builds that are on order too. Just pepper those in. So I keep it, and at the shop in Orange is the same way. I mean, we kind of do batches of double basses while we're still mixing in other things. Like, oh, we need more channel blasters, so we'll make tail pieces and channel blasters in the middle of a run of basses.
That's cool. I wish you were making more and more and more double basses.
I know, man. I do too. There's a fine line between keeping the quality and building everything in house and knowing that it's going to be perfect, and start outsourcing or even hiring more people to come in. So I'm it's hard
outsourcing more with King, right?
What's that?
You were outsourcing more with the King.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I had more interns and employees, and it was, we were doing parts that would come from Germany, or we do Korean tuning machines, or so we're having things kind of formed, like the fingerboards would be shaped already, or whereas Blaskol, we're building everything from bricks of wood, blocks of logs that aren't even surfaced yet, and raw metal, and we make everything piece by piece. Strings, tuning machines, even like you see these tuning machines, I made these, which isn't that cost effective when you're trying to build a production instrument, but it's something I think it's what I do that I believe it's important. It's taken me a long time to get to where I can build this instrument from the end pin, make the end pin to the scroll to the tuning machines, and everything in between is made here.
Is there anything that you're making just at one shop, or like each part you can make in any of these shops?
Yeah, I've made it where I can make all the parts I need for the instruments here in the UK that I'm building, and also as well as there. We're not shipping things now back and forth. We don't have to do that.
That's cool. Are you going to open another shop somewhere?
Tokyo.
You will?
Yeah.
All right. This is some exclusive news. When?
I mean, I was gonna be sooner, but all of this, who knows with this thing happening. But we already have the plans, and I have like the best distribution, and they've become really great friends of mine. You've met them, Tommy and May. They run Blaskol Japan, and they have offices over there, and they distribute a lot of like nice quality brands, and they're especially sweet on Blaskol, I think. But we work with them as partners, and I want to do something over there with those guys as well. I love Japan, and Japan has upped my skill set as far as building, because they accept nothing less than perfect over there. And when I started building for the Japanese, they were like, hey, like there's this tiny little thing right here that probably won't fly. And I was like, what? Really? Like, no way. That? They're like, yeah, that. So it upped my skill game on woodworking, setup, and how to make something ship perfect, because they don't mess around there. They want perfection. And so it made me better, So I love. We sell a lot of instruments in Japan, and I love I love Japan anyway, but I love that.
Your guitars or Blaskout guitars are popular in Japan, right?
Yeah.
What is the guy's name that plays it?
What's Hote?
Yeah, Hote.
Yeah, Hote's rad, man. He's the man. He's like
He's like a very
Japanese
popular
guitar
Japanese singer and singer and guitar slinger. And you know, some of our audience might have heard his duo with Brian Setzer.
Yeah, I mean, he's played with everyone from Setzer to Queen to, I mean, he's played with every rock star. He actually lives in London. A lot of
does he? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's where I met him. I met him over here.
Okay. So do you guys hang out?
Yeah, I mean, they're not lately because of this, but yeah, I mean, we've hung out a lot. He came to our launch party. He did a really cool kind of private gig with an after party for his fans in London. So all these people flew in from, you know, everywhere, mostly probably Japan and a lot of there was people from all over Asia, I think, that came in just to see this like cool solo show he did over here. And then he went to Japan and did a tour recently. That was amazing. And he's playing those Batavias. He loves them.
Yeah, those Batavias look cool.
He's just a cool dude. He did he did the Kill Bill theme song. You know, the Quentin Tarantino film, Kill Bill, that theme song. It's like kind of iconic. That's his like, that was kind of break and exposure outside of just being a Japanese guitar god. You know, it made him a little more worldwide. He's awesome.
That's great. Another question: what are the nowadays slap bass players that you like?
I mean, you know, you. I dig you. Frenchie Tomas, you can't really mess with that dude. Jimbo always. Lee's the solid. Like he's a solid player that plays, you know, that's where you base things from, where he comes from. And then Jimbo took it to more of that double thing, you know, and what? Well, slap bass. So yeah, I'd say like my favorite recent slap bass album, it's not that recent anymore. It was always that Champagne for All, because he just went berserk on that with his bass solos and stuff. That was cool. And I'm sure I'm missing tons of rad people. You know, Christian's always been good.
Did Christian play like any slap with Cypress Hill?
I don't think he did much slap. No, okay. He was just playing all those Latin, Latin loops that they were using in the cool Black Sunday and all that stuff. That album was so good. And he played with 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg too, double bass, about the same, you know. But he was also doing heavy metal on 5 bass. You know, he had a big B string.
He's a primarily a metal guitar player, right?
Bass player, but then he wound up switching from bass to guitar in Fear Factory, and wound up playing guitar. And now he's back to bass because he's playing with one of the guys from Cypress and maybe another guy from Fear Factory. I forgot, but he's got a new project with those guys. He's been touring with them.
Wow, that's cool.
Kind of hip hop metal.
Pop metal.
Hip hop metal.
Hip hop. Okay.
Yeah, but it's hard. Yeah, it's like, you know.
All right. So one question: how do you find and choose your sponsored players?
I mean, you can say, because I mean, there's not really many sponsored players anymore. I mean, I kind of just work with my friends that I've known for years, and I know that I can bounce things off of, and R&D certain things for, like, I got Miles, who is the jazz and funk kind of crusher and has taken double bass into his own realm with his pedals and his bow, and it's just his, he's just a virtuoso as well as just writing cool songs and stuff. So it's good to work with guys like that. And having the shop in Orange, I was able to work with all of you guys on a face-to-face, come in, take this on tour, use it, work with it. So I'm not especially looking for guys that I can like to help me sell my product. It's more about the people I interact with and I've worked with and trust their first off their skill level and their tone and all of that, and respect kind of their playing to give them things that help me move forward. It's not as much as like, hey, this is the so-and-so model now, and blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not trying to, I already have plenty of orders for double basses. You know, I'm not trying to really like set the world on fire at Guitar Center with 1 billion double bass sales because of some dude that I don't know and he's the flavor of the month playing the bass. You know, it's kind of, it's moved from that a lot to just like the guys that of, and I know that can help me move my craft forward.
Well,
but send me your demo tapes and t-shirts because I'll wear those babies. And I love listening to new music. So, you know, there's always sponsor anyone. Like, it's not really a sponsorship. It's more of a partnership that, I mean.
That's how I always saw it. I always see you as my big brother here, you know. My family. Yeah, you guys' family.
Trying to free gear to people either. You know, it's just not, it can't happen. It's all made from scratch. So if I flow somebody a free bass, it's like, I don't really get to pay rent that month. So, you know, it works like that. But you know how it is, man. You go out and you provide quality input for what I'm trying to manufacture and make and evolve and move forward.
I mean, you know, the same thing, you know, like I really choose, I don't want to just play, you know, and whoever offers me, you know, like a free stuff, you know, I just want to be like, I'm very picky, you know, about my tone, my sound and everything. So I would never sacrifice my style and my like artist integrity like for sponsorships and
yeah, I agree. And I think it's changed a lot in the last definitely the last 10, 15, 20 years.
You did. You're right. Yeah.
I'm sponsored and you get all this free stuff from these companies and you're getting you're sponsored. It's not really necessarily because you like that. You're getting paid, you're getting free stuff. And then people were, you know, musicians just throw it on eBay and sell it. It's changed now. It's got to be a little more legit. And I think just whoring your name out or your style or whatever to have a signature model guitar on something that wasn't on your first record. You didn't use that. That's not your sound. Now you're playing this mass-produced guitar made in, you know, overseas somewhere by people who don't give a shit. That costs
absolutely
$200 at the shop. Like, why? That has no like credibility. And I think players now can see through that. And I don't think those deals work the same anymore. They're really greasy and like, hey, I'm sponsored. Got that. It's not that cool, really. It's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Something, you know, like legit.
I absolutely agree. Cool. All right. So if anyone has any more questions for Jason or me, now's the time. I think we're gonna finish up. It's 3 hours, Jason. 3 hours.
Talk, babe. We gotta talk a lot, and yeah, man. It's
what time is that over there? Like 10 p.m.?
I don't know. It must be like 11 or 12 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I see that it's dark. It started. It was.
It started. It was day.
Right.
The sun goes down late over here right now. In summer, it's like maybe 10 o'clock. The sun goes down. So. Yeah.
And is it quiet now in London? Like people don't hang out at all, or
full on London's ripping. Nobody gives a shit. They're rolling like it's all good.
Oh yeah.
No face mask. Go to the pub, hang out all day. You know, it's cool. It's like back to normal.
And, oh really? Okay.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of new cases now. It's gone way down.
And how about concerts?
No, but people are going to start. I heard about heard about some new ones about to go down on barges on the Thames River. So people are just going to go out there and go, yeah, you can't really stop this when we're on the river, and cruise down the river on barges. And then it'll slowly open, you know. I think they're waiting, you know. It's kind of been like everything that's happened here is about 2 weeks, 3 weeks behind what everybody else is doing. So they're waiting to see what happens, and then they kind of implement things. Like you got to wear a mask on public transport, which is a big way you get around in London. I mean, you ride the tube and the bus and all that. And, you know, people usually they like to follow the rules over here, so they do it. But you don't need one at a bar or a pub or a restaurant, private club. So those are all open, and the government did this great thing over here, man. I love it. It's so good. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, half price restaurants. And
oh, really?
Yeah, just to get the economy rolling again for the restaurants and pubs. So
the government supports it, or like
the government pays half your tab for food on Monday,
wow.
and Wednesday. Yeah, it's called Eat Out, Help Out.
That's interesting. Wow,
fat man. And London has killer restaurants, you know.
Oh yeah, I love London.
Yeah,
I went to London just a few times, but you know I always loved it. It's a cool city.
Great food, great pubs, and like I'm glad to be back in. It was a long lockdown over here. I know it's kind of clamping down again over there in Cali, but it's moving pretty good here now. It feels good. Music stores are open again, and you know.
That's good to know. All right, so for the end, do you want to play something since you're holding your bass like for the last hour and a half without playing anything?
I'm holding the double bass, man. I guess. What do you want me to play?
Jam a little bit, you know, jam something for the end, and then we want to say bye-bye.
All right, buddy.
All right. Cool, man. Thank you, Jason. I can't wait to see you here. I can't wait to play my new bass and put out my new Blast Cult pickups like on Blast Cult shop, and mostly to hang with you in person so we can grab a beer and eat some
man.
here or London.
Hell yeah. It's got to happen.
Thanks a lot for being a part of the Slapstream, and
thanks for having me, buddy.
Of course, anytime. I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Talk to you soon.
All right, guys, that was Jason Burns from the Blast Cult and King Double Bass. I just love this guy, and this is one of the longest slap streams with Djordje that we had so far. I think the only longer one was with Mark Rubin a few weeks ago. And thanks a lot for all these comments. Please, if you want to see someone featured, write down in the comments below this video, because that's much easier to check for me. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel. The subscribe button should be around here somewhere. And if you can, please donate. Donation links are below. And Patreon is really helping out. So thanks. I want to give another shout out to new Patreons. And I want to give a special shout out to Fernando Slap, that even asked a few questions here on the live chat today. He's our bass playing pal from Argentina, who's soon going to be moving to Spain. And he did all these cool graphics. So that's the reason why Slapstream and Art of Slap Bass look so good. Thanks to Fernando. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you next week. We have another cool guest I'm going to announce in the next couple of days. So follow Art of Slap Bass on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. All the links are below. All Jason links are below, Blast Cult's links. Make sure to follow those as well. And don't forget, never fret. Slide it in smooth and keep it in a groove. This is Djordje. See you next Saturday.